Boop. Hey, everybody. How
Hello.
is it going? Matt is on a spaceship. How's it
Yeah,
going on the spaceship, Matt?
it's good. There's a constant soothing background hum to everything.
You know, that should not be as soothing as it is, but when I think about Star Trek, I think about that
That,
white noise.
yeah. I've thought before about if I could get that white noise installed in my house.
Well, does your office do that? My old office used to like just pump white noise in,
No,
because if there's no white noise, then the person down the hall talking loudly on their phone becomes a lot more evident, and it's annoying.
I no. I just close my door if that happens.
Well, some of us don't have private offices, Matt. Some of us have to work in cubes.
I'm sorry.
Are you though?
Kind of.
How's everybody doing this week? Is everybody doing well? Matt's clearly doing great. He's the captain. He's the captain now. Yep, that's what I have. A giant open office cubicle floor. It's miserable. All right, I think the email has gone out um, on Patreon now, so we should be ready to go whenever.
Okay.
Dragon.
Yeah, I'm at the
Oh yeah,
con.
you're not, and yeah, that's
I
true.
couldn't see if you get an image in the captain chair, then it doesn't really look like much of anything. You're just like, oh, you're in a beige chair. That's cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need the whole bridge view.
Yeah. I have a sore throat, which may or may not become evident as this podcast goes along.
I think it's gonna.
We'll
We'll do
see.
our best.
Yep.
We were this close to canceling, but you decided last minute that you were gonna power through. So
Yep.
props to you, Matt.
It's not like sore throat's going to be better tomorrow. So,
It's true.
all
All
right.
right. I think we are ready to go. Thanks all for hanging out. We will, as always, talk after we're done.
Hitting record.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That. Jeez. Like, it doesn't feel like it's been a long time since we've done this, but or the opposite of what I just said. It hasn't been a long time. It feels like it. Are you ready to go?
Yep.
Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2,
One.
1.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Matt Freeman, and I'm feeling an overpowering sense of impending bloody doom about today's episode.
I I feel it as well, Matt, but I'm sure if we just bull ahead thoughtlessly, we'll be able to dodge any obstacles in our path and emerge victorious. Anyway, this is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive into Wildbow's world of unhinged goddesses, tunnel adventures, and alien based death powers as we analyze and interpret this ongoing web serial. This week, in the aftermath of Victoria's fight with Lung, where she Captain Planeted her differing identities into one form, Victoria is forced to deal with the scariest question of all: what's next? Goddess is becoming increasingly unhinged, and Victoria has to balance her loyalty to the Blue Lady while still looking out for her teammates and trying to do what's right. Matt, what do you think about these two chapters, which I forgot to say which ones they are? They are 9.12 and 9.13.
These were two really fun chapters. I don't know what better word encapsulates like the joy with which I read these. I'm not even sure why exactly these struck me. Like 9.12, I just like was smiling while reading almost in its entirety. Just really great, really fun.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely like, we just had this big moment, right? This big moment for Victoria and this big action sequence, and these are definitely like aftermath chapters, and it's leading into something else, of course. But the first one in particular is definitely like, okay, that's done. Well, what's now? What now?
Hmm.
What? And I really like that idea, especially since we talked about this so much last week, how Victoria was making choices that are like, okay, we got to get through this right now, and then we got to deal with tomorrow after that. And well, we're dealing with tomorrow now, or later that day rather. But I really liked how Victoria's kind of struggling and being pulled in different directions, and kind of having to bend in some ways that she hasn't in the past.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That kind of thinking makes me realize how interesting it's going to be to reflect on Arc 9 when it's done, because so much has happened. Arc, like, this has been the acceleration of a lot of the character growth of Victoria, a lot of the plot movements that have been building up for the whole story up to this point have all.
Hey man, I think your mic just switched.
Yeah. Hold on.
It's back now.
Okay. I'll just resume what I was saying, I guess.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me just check that it's actually back.
I mean, you sound great, and there's no background noise, so it's very distinct.
Okay. All right. Yes. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about about Arc 9 when this arc is wrapped up, because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this acceleration of both the plot movements and the character growth moments, and I almost don't remember what happened at the beginning of Arc 9, and by almost I mean I don't.
I think it's the longest one we've had so far, and it's not just length of chapters; it's number of events. You're absolutely right. There's a lot that goes on in this thing. I think we're approaching the end here, probably next week. So yeah, I am looking forward to that overall talk about the arc as a whole, and rereading it and as a whole chunk too. So I can't wait to get to that. But first, we've got to get to these 2 chapters. That's
right. So announcements up front. We've got Ward Halloween contest ends November 1st. So since everyone will be going as something Parahumans themed for Halloween, just take a picture of yourself. Make sure you send us that selfless picture that Scott keeps talking about.
Yeah, I do have something. If you're just gonna do a picture of you in business casual and say it's one of the characters in the thing, that doesn't count. I mean, it was funny. I laughed when you sent the email person, but that doesn't count. I think that doesn't count.
I mean, it goes up to a vote for the patrons, so
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right, so Community Spotlight, where we read what people wrote from last week's thread. The discussion question last week was, self-identity has been a major theme in Ward. What does the text say about the nature of identity and how identity shifts over time?
Matt, we said this was an English, literature studies type of question prompt, and that's the kind of responses we got to. People wrote very, very long, lengthy essays that I had a lot of trouble, breaking down and summarizing in any kind of way to capture their main idea. But I suggest that you go check those out. We're gonna make an attempt, but it's another one of those threads I really want. Some people are afraid of Reddit, Matt, and I understand that. Believe me. But I really think this thread and this community is an exception to that.
Yes, the Parahumans subreddit is an oasis, and you'll be safe there.
All right, but let's get into it. First, we have up Clairno, who wrote an entire whole essay, just like we were talking about. Clairno talks about how physical and personal identity in the story are equally important, and how it's how these two things that tie together that show Wildbow's strength as a writer. They say that since Wildbow is an awesome writer, these two layers of identity are not separated; they mingle. Victoria wants to be a better person who thinks things through and de-escalates problems, but her trauma related to her physical identity leaves her with emotional problems and triggers that interfere with those attempts. Tristan and Byron have fundamental differences in personality that are thrown in high contrast by their physical situation. This is good writing. It shows the complexity of the issues while being thematically resonant. I agree. As to what all this means, Clairno links that to the second half of the question you asked, that is the how identity shifts over time. They state that forgiveness is a big theme the book is tackling, and with how the shifting identities tie into that theme, that theme of forgiveness. For a lot of people, Clairno states, forgiveness is fundamentally tied to whether or not the transgressor has changed. Have they learned from the bad thing that they did? Have they become the person who won't do that thing again? But this changing just for the sake of forgiveness? Is that enough? Clarno think that's one of the things that the book is exploring, and they finish up their essay with, I think that's a lot of what Ward is going to be about, changing yourself for the higher purpose of self-actualization and fulfillment, not simply for the forgiveness of others. That was my attempt to summarize this essay that was 4 times as long as that.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm going to elaborate too much on that because it stands on its own, I think.
Yeah. One of the things, I mean, like, we're doing these things where you ask questions like, this book is dealing with this. What does this mean? And of course, the book has not, like, revealed its full conceit yet, right? Like, we need to see how things end to know really what the book is specifically saying about these things. But you can kind of see the tracks being laid. And a lot of these questions have answers to the effect of, I think what it's exploring is ideas related to this, and we'll see how it actually pans out.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I think it's safe to say that we've known what the major themes were going to be for a long time, but where the story actually comes down on those themes is still up in the air.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I like about Wildbow's writing is that he doesn't, even if he has like a central like conclusion behind those themes, it's not simple. It's not something you could put into one sentence, right? Like, I think the idea of trauma and bullying, that there was a through line through Worm, there was not a simple conclusion about that. It wasn't open-ended, but it was like, look, this is complicated. There are many different layers to it. It's very gray. And I think we're going to see similar things to the conceit of the themes in this book.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's not just one thesis that Worm was making, I don't think. All right, next from Cal Subalu. They argue that Ward doesn't explore one specific way identity can be prescribed, but instead offer a variety of different ways. They basically say we have characters who force themselves to adopt a particular identity, like Valefor, and characters who have an identity forced upon them, like Swansong. We have characters who chafe at how others have defined them, who seek to redefine themselves against that pressure, like Rain, and who embrace the pressure and internalize it, like Kenzie. We've also seen how self-identity can shift over time without anyone intending for it to happen, like Byron, or how it can be pushed along by outside influences, via Goddess, I suppose, or seen in Goddess as well. Cal Subalu also chooses to focus on our protagonist and how her identity is shaped. And it's complicated. They say that she's a person very much defined by her history, both the tragic and the good, and she's also a person who actively and intentionally tries to redefine herself in the present to try to be a better person and a better hero. We have seen the core of her identity, and we've seen it shift over the events of Ward, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, sometimes through internal effort, and sometimes due to her environment. So basically, all of these different ways and means that identity can interact with the world and with other people are all sort of being explored simultaneously via other characters and also kind of in microcosm in our protagonist.
Yeah, I think that was a really great summary of that. That was really fascinating. I like, again, Wildbow is not limiting himself. Like, he likes to explore, likes to take a central theme and then explore it from kind of every angle, right? So we take this idea of identity. He's not satisfied with just exploring one aspect of it. He wants to see all sides of it, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Beard of Valor thinks that Ward explores identity and how characters can shift from being defined to self-actualizing and defining oneself. Their example of this is Sveta is a monster created by an ends justify the means thing, and she's the means. But she's also a hero and has found fledgling love. Ashley was defined by finding self-importance and purpose and recognition, but now she acknowledges that she's broken, and not just by Bonesaw. And she's working on becoming the kind of person who would benefit from a team of people with brains, which is a reference, I think, to one of our chapters in this reading. And I like that idea a lot, this kind of shift from passive to active, from being defined by other people to grabbing the reins of that and defining yourself. And I think that's, an important part of kind of recovery from trauma. It's your trauma has defined you, and you have to find a way to redefine yourself around that trauma. Who are you? Who you were before has been impacted by something, and you need to find that and grab onto those reins. I like that a lot.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Ashley's character is definitely one of the ones that jumps to mind immediately when you're thinking about the whole idea of self-identity, because she's a weird case, but
Yeah.
but also somehow very easy to relate to.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be talking about the Ashleys quite a lot in this week's chapters.
Yep. All right, from Tisar Watt, they wrote an essay, literally a whole essay with citations and everything, um, about exploring LGBT identity and how it relates to Wildbow's work. And they say civilian/cape separation has a serious impact on identity. A lot of people enforce the separation so they can distinguish the acts of oneself from those of the other. But that is often a weakness. There's the concern about revelation and the risk of either side bleeding through into the other. When Taylor is at the town hall and shit goes down, she's limited by being with her dad, being unwilling to reveal her blindness to anyone because it's a cape injury. In contrast, one of her most badass moments is when the wall has been torn down, albeit without her consent, in the cafeteria scene. This is a fairly easy comparison to being in the closet. But more than how cape identities reflect these people, Tisarwat also explores some LGBT characters in the story itself, namely Circus, Furcate, and Legend, noting how these characters use their cape personas to express identity. Or in the case of Legend, how merely being both a gay man and a huge hero has helped. And I think I don't think we're going to be able to do this essay justice without reading it all, but go check it out in the Reddit thread.
Yeah, this is all you guys did great. We didn't even get to cover them all this week, but this one was literally like a designed essay with citations to studies about LGBT people and the struggles of both being in the closet and the struggles of coming out while not being accepted. And it's a great read. Check it out. Check out the thread. Once again, don't be afraid of Reddit. In this one case, the only time.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so wrapping up the discussion from the thread, just kind of general points that were made. Kyrgyzstan points out the difference between how Byron and Tristan describe their brother's experiences while sitting on the sideline. Byron always treats Tristan's movements and actions as distinctly Tristan's, as in Tristan moved his arm, whereas Tristan still claims ownership even while not in front, as in Byron moved their arm.
Yeah, this was something they called out to us, and basically the reason we didn't talk about it is because I missed it, Matt. I didn't catch that on my reread, so it's just something I just flat out didn't see, and I wish I had because I love it. It's just a small little beat that reflects, both of their situations. Byron clearly draws a distinction between the two of them. He is, when he is not in control, it is not his body anymore. Tristan, whether he's in control or not, it is always at least partially his body. And I think that's a really great way of clearly defining the differences between the two of them.
But I wonder if Tristan thinks of it as their arm when Tristan is out and controlling the body.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't think he does.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on into these chapters, Scott.
All right.
We open 9.12, and the beginning of this chapter is rough from a podcasting perspective because we have to stop and talk about pretty much every sentence for the first five paragraphs. So we open with Goddess complimenting Antares for saving the day, but accusing her of being mercurial, then offering her a lesser country if she comes back to Shin with her. In the midst of this, Rain, we get Rain reacting from the peanut gallery. A country, wow. So yeah, good stuff.
I was a bit worried regarding what the short-term value Rain would be able to contribute to the story right now. He had such great progress in the early parts of the story, and then what? This isn't to say that I think Rain is done in the story. I think he's got a lot more to do. We have obviously two cluster mates out there still hunting for him, so his arc is far from resolved. But in the intermediate, he didn't have a lot to do, and I think part of the reason why I felt he was kind of thrown in prison and kind of shuttled out of the main story, at least partially for a bit, was because he was kind of in stasis waiting for the next part of his story. But he's back in it now, Matt, and he's great. He's so great. He's kind of naturally switched into this comedic relief role, and I think Rain was always kind of a comedic relief, but it was different before. Like he's less of the bumbling, incompetent loser and more of the, oh man, bad stuff just keeps happening to this guy, and he's trying. And I think that's what I get here with this beat, and then much further in the story, as bad things keep happening to him, he's kind of like, bad stuff happens, but he's rolling with it.
Yeah, yeah, he's just kind of the butt of all the bad stuff. I like your observation. It serves the story really well that he was not around, and that isn't to dig on Rain. It's just the idea that you have two of the team members in prison actually allows the story to focus on the other characters a lot more during a time when that was really necessary.
Yeah.
I think if, keeping all of these characters developed is kind of a spinning plates thing where you have to touch base with them if they're around. You have to show how they're reacting if they're around. And so sometimes it's easier for them to just not be around so that you can focus in more. And now I think this is the time in the story when we get everyone back together. And I think it's also interesting that now that we've got everyone back together, the first thing that happened was they were split apart again, so that we can keep the team focused a little bit more on Victoria, Capricorn, Rain, Kinsey, and the new Ashley.
Yeah, I like what you said there. I don't think it's just that it's easier. I think it absolutely is easier, but I don't think Wildbow likes things without intent behind them. I don't get that feeling from his writing. So like if you have a character that's just like has no immediate purpose, like his arc isn't advancing at this moment, he's not doing a lot. It's much better, it seems, to just remove him from the equation than to just have him sitting there kind of just there but in stasis. So we get to see like Rain is off, he's off doing his own stuff. Like there's still stuff happening to him. He's kind of adjusting to life in prison and kind of adjusting to life after killing someone. But he doesn't need to be the focal point. So yeah, it's easier, and I think just it fits Wildbow's sensibilities a lot.
Yeah, cool. So the next thing that happens is, of course, Victoria denies being mercurial.
Yeah, certainly the girl who just spent the entire last chapter jumping from personality to personality couldn't possibly ever be described as mercurial at all.
Yeah. Oh, and especially not from the point of view of Goddess, who met her being all professional but trying to cover up her anxiety, and then almost killing her sister in violent anger, and then coming through and saving the day.
Yeah, I really like that. It's great as a reflection of how Victoria is perceived by the people around her, right? Because she's constantly internally working through stuff, and she's in her mind grabbing onto these different personalities, these different identities, these different aspects of herself to do it. But from the outside, what's that seen as just like someone who appears to randomly switch moods at the drop of a hat, and like I think that's so fascinating, and I think like in general it's hard for people to figure out Victoria, especially people as let's see, how do I say this without being rude, as dumb as Goddesses.
Sounds right.
Yeah. I also really like how Victoria, like in this moment where she's like, I'll give you a city or a country, she kind of contorts her way into saying no without really saying no. Like her argument is, I'm a city girl. I want to stay in the city. And that's one of those things that's like technically true. She does like the city and she wants to help this city, but like there's probably a city in that country she's gonna get. Like it's just like one of those things that it's like it's technically true, and it's her wiggling away into saying no without saying no, but still very much under Goddess's whole deal.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's also funny because Goddess, like, if she really wants Victoria, she's just gonna take her, right? So
right.
It's almost like she doesn't really respond to Victoria's refusal because it's a pretty worthless refusal.
Yeah.
So yeah, the two of them, the Goddess and Victoria, try to work through what's going on because Goddess is feeling some funky stuff with her danger sense. All we know at first, like at the beginning of the chapter, is that Blindside and Kingdom Come have probably gone to the access tunnels where the rest of Breakthrough was headed.
Yeah, and I think this is setting up our big conflict of the early part of this chapter. Victoria wants to make sure her teammates are okay. That's what she wants to do right now. The battle is over. She's in the aftermath. I want to go after my teammates. I want to find them. I want to make sure they're okay. It's been too long. Goddess wants her to stay here. She doesn't want her to do that. And I love, this is, in my mind, us really starting to push hard against the edges of Goddess's compulsion, something that'll become very much more apparent later in this chapter. But like, Victoria is still mind whammied here, right? But look at how she complies. Like, it's not just she's saying yes anymore. Like, stay, Goddess said, her voice firm. My jaw clenched. I nodded. Sorry. Her jaw clenches, Matt. It's acquiescence, like, in the strictest sense of that word. Like, she's doing it. She definitely doesn't want to, and she doesn't feel good about it at all.
Yeah, there's moments here where, like, the way I read her internal monologue or her thought process is like just absolutely repeatedly changing gears to try to find some angle on what she's thinking that will pass muster with the compulsion.
Yeah.
Because she, like, the first three approaches are not goddess aligned approaches, and so she just kind of like stands there. So you can just kind of imagine, like, this conversation pretty much after this point, like, Goddess staring at her, and then her, like, standing there looking back, kind of like click whir in her head as she, like, tries to find a way to be aligned. And it's just so against her nature to do it that the strain is building, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
So Victoria briefly flies over to the young group of capes who've been tasked with guarding the humans, and basically she's visiting in with Natalie, and she hopes Natalie will say something to her, but she doesn't. And then one of the youths gives Victoria some lip, but then the leader of the youths appears to defer to Victoria out of respect for her service in Gold Morning.
Yeah, this whole scene is really interesting to me. I think it's actually, like, low-key pretty important. There are two things going on here. Victoria's trying to make sure Natalie is okay, but I think more than that, she's trying to make sure if Natalie has any, like, orders for her. Like, remember, she's basically put Natalie in the position of the de facto leader because the Master Stranger protocols say that she's the one in the chain of command. She's the only one that's unaffected. So I think she's, like, Victoria's kind of lost, and she doesn't know what to do, and she's torn and pulled in these different directions, and none of it feels right. And I think it's checking on Natalie, making sure Natalie's doing okay, yes, but also, like, hey, tell me what I should do now. Give me what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, especially after this interaction with Goddess, where it's just like pure torture for her, and she just doesn't even know what direction to point. Like, basically, I think her problem right now is, like, by default, she's just like, well, shit, I guess I just have to do whatever Goddess tells me to do, because like, I can't think around it right now. If I had one person to just tell me do that, then at least I could just do that and be able to hold on to my Master Stranger protocols. But as it is, he's just like, well, I have no other choice than to just do what Goddess says.
Yeah, and so that's the one thing that's going on. But the other thing that's going on is this: we have this whole interaction with these young capes, and young, like, Victoria makes a point to mention how young they are. She kind of goes on a whole tangent about how young people trigger, and these are very young children that are in prison and now guarding the humans. And she kind of commands them, and they push back against her until, like you said, they see the Gold Morning bracelet on her, and then the leader of them respects her now. This is really interesting, because the question we have to ask ourselves is, why is this happening right now? Like, why is this scene happening right now? We have Victoria in this moment. Why does this interaction occur? Is this just like a low-key setup regarding a group of kid capes that we'll probably see again? Yeah, maybe. Is it a reminder about the Gold Morning band that Victoria wears that might play, like just a subtle reminder that, oh yes, this thing still exists and Victoria is still wearing it. So in case that can play off in the future, I could see that. Is it just a quick jaunt to see how Natalie's doing? Yeah, it's probably that too. But I think, like anything in the book, it's doing more than that, Matt. And I think this gets into kind of a conversation about Victoria and the past and things in the past, and how Victoria, the past is important. The things that we've done in the past and the things that have happened to us in the past are important, and they matter. I go back to that conversation between Victoria and Ashley on the train when they had that interaction with I forgot her name. What's the name of the girl on the train that takes her picture? They send a picture to. It's not important. That one, and how much Victoria was like, no, you don't understand. Our interactions, what we do, what we decide to do matters. It like ripples out from there, and we need like that's why doing the right thing is important. That's why making the right choices are important. That's why having the right impact on people is important. And in this moment where Victoria is kind of lost and unsure what to do, and her mantras and stuff are kind of not feeling right, she gets this little beat of enforcing like, hey, you were part of this thing, and because you were part of this thing, because of the past, I grudgingly respect you.
Yeah, and she doesn't even know how to handle it in that moment. I love her like fairly awkward reply. She's just like, "Good man, okay."
Yeah, that was really
Big
it was
gulps,
really
huh?
awkward, wasn't it?
See you later. Yeah. Which I mean is very realistic because she doesn't think of that as something that she's like owed credit for.
Right.
But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether she thinks that it is, right. And I think that's an interesting
Yeah.
framing of like the consequences of your actions can be things you have no idea about.
Yeah. And we see that she kind of doesn't trust them at all still. Even though he says this, he gives her like, I'm going to listen to you because I respect that you were involved in this big event. But then one of the things she does later is send someone worse to go check up on Natalie because she's not really trusting of these kids. So, it's an interesting like reaction in that it both I think has positives and negatives, you know?
Yeah. There's a lot to think about there. I agree. So hey, remember when Victoria kind of non-committally implied that she would get Cole Belcher out of jail? And well, turns out that he's interpreting all these events as Victoria coming through on her word.
Yeah, that was fortunate, I guess.
Yeah,
She never said she was gonna do it, but she didn't not.
I really liked how
So chain of events, right?
I liked how that was set up because I mean, when you know something's going to come of that, even at the time, and it's just nicely, very subtly set up. It's not distracting. She's like, yep, she has a very small connection with one of the powerful prisoners, and now she's calling it in, and it was set up, and it's good writing.
Yeah.
So we also learned that apparently Goddess was a bit taken aback by how strong Lookout came on. So she placed her with Monokeros as a cat babysitter to her canary, which is just terrible.
No, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know if we fully understand Monokeros' power, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw like she had the ability to make Lookout like change directions and like beeline right for her, right? Like, so she has some kind of compulsion power of some sort, but we don't really know the full detail of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do really love the detail that like even for Goddess, Lookout is a bit much. Like even for the person who is so used to like making people, not worship is a strong word, but making people prioritize her above all else, she's like, maybe slow it a little down here. This is a little too much for me.
I mean, it's kind of funny in its way because like you're taking the character who has these problems with attaching herself to people, and you're giving basically the power makes everyone attach themselves to Goddess.
Yeah.
So it's like the worst possible thing. Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting kind of how Goddess is subtly like playing into the worst instincts of our main characters, right?
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, there's probably a lot to be dug into there. Yeah, so the team talks about Monokeros a bit as if we're setting something up, mentioning that she's a horror story among capes and legitimately disturbs all of them. Victoria studies her smile, and Byron remarks, "She reminds me of someone," Byron said. "Not all the time, but there." And then they interrupted.
Man, Matt, I can't tell you how many times I reread this passage trying to come up with an idea of who exactly Byron is talking about here. And if you'll indulge me for a second, and by a second I mean like 10 minutes, because it's like a page. I'm pretty sure he's either talking about Tristan or Moonsong here. That's what, from my extensive studies, that's who I've boiled this down to, Matt. And I think it's kind of meant to be ambiguous. Like, I think you're not supposed to be exactly clear who he's talking about. And the cool thing about this is that either way, this tells us something important about Byron and his current state and who he is and what's going through his mind right now. So I think we either way we break this down, it says something cool. So you want to do it?
Yeah, walk me through that, Scott.
All right, so first we have to look at the line that directly preceded Byron's comment, just to make sure we have context on what type of smile this is. Victoria says, Monokera smiled. It was the kind of smile that was practiced, then reused so many times it looked natural. A model smile. The smile of a hero who lived off their team brand, lived off their brand, like a corporate and sponsored heroes, and maybe small family teams with an up-and-coming generation of youths. So she's kind of putting on this fake practice smile, like it's meant to manipulate people. It's meant to make people think certain things. There is a specific connotation to a corporate hero, which doesn't specifically eliminate one or either of our choices. But the imagery is clear here. It's a fake smile. It comes off as rehearsed and fake. It's kind of a mask in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the case for this being Tristan, right? In chapter 9.6, we have Byron discussing Tristan's smile, and he says, I smile, and it's an expression. He smiles, and people like him. And then also in 9Y, we have him say, Tristan's face stretched into a smile, white teeth showing, and we put on a face like he was trying not to smile. It was forced acted. So there's a lot of discussion around smiles in relation to Byron discussing Tristan. We also, I remember you pulled up the stretching of the smile, right? That's something you mentioned back in that chapter, that it wasn't just that he was smiling, it was stretching into the smile. And we talked about how great that was. So if this is Tristan or Byron thinking about his brother, I think this would importantly fit into exactly how Byron has perceived Tristan in the past, in the interludes. A person who manipulates others into doing his bidding by putting a good face on things. He tricks people into liking him, and then they do what he wants. It's not exactly news that Byron feels this way about his brother, but I think it's interesting here because we're in a time frame where presumably the brothers have a generally better attitude towards each other than they did in the interludes we've seen. Like, they have improved somewhat, at least at the start of the story, and things have been steadily getting worse throughout Ward rather. But we've never seen Byron audibly admonish his brother in the present day, right? All the direct Tristan's terrible, Tristan's the worst has been in the past. So this is him kind of connecting his brother to a psycho mass murderer, but he doesn't just make that connection. He kind of caveats it, where he's like, not all the time, but just specifically this one place. So he's intentionally limiting the scope of his comment towards this one particular moment, this one particular action, this smile. Which, if it is Tristan, I think this indicates that he's being more cautious and reserved in his judgment of his brother than we've seen in his interludes. He's kind of holding it back and not going full force into it. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the first thing that jumps to mind is that Tristan is watching at this very moment, and it's super shitty to be like, that guy, that serial killer right there reminds me of my brother who can't defend himself right now. So that's one reason why he would have stopped himself from saying it.
Right.
But I also I just don't read the wording as him being about to say fuck Tristan, y'all, and then stopping himself. It's more he notices, and maybe he was going to say Tristan, but if so, he didn't mean it in a mean way. He probably, like you said, just meant the aspect of a well-crafted smile that's practiced.
Yeah.
But the thing about Tristan though is that like just because his smile is smooth and easy doesn't mean it's fake and artificial. And
Right.
I don't think Tristan's smile is fake and artificial because he's also just as quick to anger, and I don't think he's particularly good at hiding his anger when he's angry.
No, I think you're right. I think it's just the perception of that smile that Byron has, and I think I think that's what's so interesting about this. Like, if he was referring to Tristan here, it is saying that he is both a little more reserved towards his brother than he has been in the past, but also that he still recognizes some not goodness in his brother that he's relating to this. So I think it says something kind of about his opinion on the current state of their relationship.
Yeah. But who else could he be talking about, Scott?
So he could be talking about Moonsong, and actually, uh, this is more interesting to me. The implications of this. So first we have kind of the evidence. In 9.y, Tristan comments on Moonsong's smile. He says, "Brianna smiled with a politician's daughter smile. Practiced." We get the specific connection to the line "practice." Now it is important to note here that this is Tristan noticing this, not Byron. Byron is not aware of this. In fact, when Byron describes Moonsong's smile back in his interlude, it's nothing but like positivity and love. Like, the first time he sees her smile, he kind of focuses on it and loses a bit and mentions like when he was looking at photos of the team, he hadn't even paid much attention to her, but seeing that smile, he was paying attention. And then later when they're having their conversation, he saw Moonsong smile, red lipstick, almost pleased with herself or pleased with him, and he felt his heart skip a beat. So Byron has never kind of echoed Tristan's comment about Moonsong's smile being politician-like or forced or practiced or anything like that. But the book still has drawn that line for us. It uses the word, in fact, it uses that word practiced. Now this is where it gets interesting to me, because if he is thinking of Moonsong in this instance, if that's who he's relating this to, I think it shows that he's had a changing of opinion on Moonsong a little bit. That maybe what Tristan saw as like the wool has been lifted from his eyes a little bit, and he's seeing her as less a perfect person and maybe more of a nuanced, complicated, interesting person that she is, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we know that something must have changed in some way, right? Because
Yeah.
because Byron knows where she is. Byron actually communicated with her online in the prelude
Right.
prologue, and neither of them was like, "Hey, let's meet up."
Right. They seemed friendly, but not like friendly.
Right. So evidently something has changed between them, man, and we don't know what it's going to be, but I think it is safe to assume that maybe Byron does have a different perspective on her now.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about this is in either of these cases, I think what we're seeing here is like a snapshot, a hint at how Byron has changed, how this experience has changed Byron. We know, or at least we presume, that whatever happens to Tristan's evil choice to take control and lie about Byron's death, whatever happens to end that and return them to a sharing kind of status quo thing, Tristan harbors some guilt for that and has kind of, at least on the surface, tried to make up for that in certain ways. But we hadn't seen like what the experience did to Byron and how it changed him and how his relationship with his brother is changed by this, and how and I think we're seeing little hints of his change as well. And I thought that's really cool. And that's why I spent 10 minutes talking about this little tiny line that probably doesn't matter too much to the overall plot, but was just a really fascinating window to me.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it makes me want to go both reread that prologue chapter and also the chapter where they run into Moonsong at the Warden's headquarters.
Yeah.
Just to see like because Byron does interact with Moonsong there, and it's like, well, what is the vibe? I mean, I remember it, but I don't remember it well enough. And I also had some totally valid suspicions of Byron at the time, so I probably wasn't parsing things in the correct light.
The chocolate.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the book.
Well, I mean, we were in the book, but We're
Yeah,
just
we were
real
in literally
deep.
one line of the book.
Yeah. So Goddess summons Breakthrough back to herself, and she kind of elaborates more. She says her danger sense is on the fritz, and she says, my power is a feeling. It can come from a direction. It tastes of intent. It has flavors depending on the kind of danger. This tastes hollow, and it feels big. There's no direction to it. The opposite, the lack of direction, is the danger. Have you felt anything like this before? I asked. I felt something roughly this big once. It was when the world was ending, the Golden Man. So that's ominous, but don't worry, it might also just be Contessa.
Oh well, then that's fine then.
Yeah.
Matt, I kind of love this. I love that we're continuing to chip away at the block of marble that is Goddess. Like we see here, some like underneath it all, she's someone with a danger sense. So she's so used to kind of knowing exactly where a threat is coming from, how big the threat is. Something she's very used to, and this hollow, this directionless threat has gotten her all discombobulated. What you didn't mention before we got to this is that Goddess just destroyed the building with all the food and drugs that made people immune to her after this. Like she's lashing out, and she just is like danger sense coming from everywhere. Must destroy this one thing. Oh shit, that didn't fix it. I still feel this. It didn't go away from that. I don't know what to do. And I really like this because the second these drugs were introduced, the second we had this idea of, oh, there's a drug that makes you immune to Goddess's stuff, I was like, oh, so that's how this thing gets resolved for our teammates. This is like the Breakthrough breaks out of Goddess's compulsion via these drugs. It's the magical drug MacGuffin. And the book then takes that away from us, right? We've basically taken that out of the equation. It's like, no, that's not going to be your solution. And now I'm kind of like starting to see the resolution here as we learn more about Goddess, we learn more about who she is. Like I'm starting to get the feeling that Goddess's defeat is going to not come by the hands of some MacGuffin. It's going to be her. She's going to be the tool of her own destruction.
Yeah, right. I mean, we see her basically flailing in this chapter.
Yeah.
She knocks down the building. I mean, and it's so interesting to put yourself in her position as just someone who has such power that it's just so easy to, say, okay, I'm going to knock down all those buildings. I'm going to go attack those people over there because I have a hunch. and it's just she's just able to just kind of try so many things without really it's almost out of, I mean, it is out of fear. I was going to say it's almost out of panic, but it's certainly out of fear.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to this kind of connection to her power and what that means for her as a person is made more explicitly here in a minute, and we're going to really dive into it there. But I really think we're like, that's what we're kind of seeing as we go. Like the more and more we go, Goddess is becoming more and more unhinged, more and more upset, more scared, and she's pushing. And as she's pushing, as she's flailing, the compulsion that is keeping these people around her is being strained because she's forcing them or pushing them more and more towards things that none of these people are comfortable doing.
Yeah, exactly. So she keeps kind of coming and going. So she flies off again to try to work it out with some other capes. And the team discusses amongst themselves what this could be. They bring up possibilities, Endbringers, plagues, horsemen, 2 consecutive references to other Wildbow stories.
I guess we're going to have to read Pact, huh?
I guess.
Yeah.
To understand all this
that
stuff.
One at all.
We need to understand Pact to understand Ward.
Clearly.
We also learned that Damsel listens to audiobooks like me, because I guess both of us just tend to obliterate books.
I think she has like a substantially better excuse than you do, Matt.
Yeah.
Does Pact have an audiobook?
I don't know.
This will presumably become very important to you in, I don't know, let's say 2020?
That's optimistic. So Rain conjectures that this is a siege, and the metaphorical portcullis came down while Goddess Danger Sense was dark during the pharmacist fight, and so she didn't realize it. And basically the idea being that Teacher plans to starve them, either starve them to death or starve them into submission, and they relay this idea to Goddess, and she seems pretty upset and frightened, causing Victoria to speculate that Goddess hasn't ever really had to struggle or to overcome any real challenges.
Yeah, I love what this says about power, and the weaknesses that having power can give you. I think that I don't remember who it was, but so apologies for not giving you credit. But I think it was someone either on the Reddit or a Discord mentioned a comparison of Goddess to Taylor. Right, Goddess is this person that's so powerful she's never really felt challenged, compared to a person whose power seems so like weak on the surface is nothing but challenged constantly. And I think this is a really apt comparison. I think Goddess as a tool to explore what true unearned power does to a person is really fascinating.
Yeah, she's a very, very cool villain, basically,
Yeah.
exploring a lot of the themes of the story, and also just a really cool idea to have
Yeah.
the realistic version of the ridiculously overpowered supervillain.
Yeah, I mean, and it is so realistic is the perfect word. It is such a, of course, if you have always been the best, if you have always been the elite, you're not used to feeling insignificant. You're not used to feeling overpowered, and it's scary, and you don't know how to react to it. You haven't been trained to do that. Like, if you're born rich, let's say, like the idea of being poor is not something you can really conceive.
Yeah, right. And she's never really, I mean, we don't know this for a fact, but she's probably very rarely been stressed and pushed and
Yeah, it doesn't
had to,
seem like it.
yeah,
It's like every bit of interaction we had with her before these last few chapters, she was always like the calm, composed person. Remember, like when we first met her, like she's casually walking in the rain, but just stopping the rain from hitting her. Like she's like this person who comes off as so put together and perfect and great and a goddess. And as soon as she's pushed, as soon as she's been like kind of forced into a wall or into a prison, like her true nature's coming out here.
yeah. And she's always had her minions to fight her battles for her, really. And that's, I don't think we ever talked about this back in the Worm podcast because, frankly, we didn't know that much about Goddess. We knew some.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the fact that when we first see her, she's having basically like a war council because she has detected that there's a terrible looming danger, doesn't know what it's going to be. And then
Surprise.
surprise, she gets grabbed she almost gets out of Taylor's influence actually, but loses because Taylor's vastly more resourceful than her.
Yeah.
And that's just like the perfect microcosm of her character is like you come up against somebody who's actually strong and
Yeah.
yeah.
And it makes me wonder what that experience did to her, right? And maybe a lot of the lashing out, a lot of the panic, the fear in her right now is because she's remembering the one time, and this is conjecture, we don't know if it's the one time, but presumably one of the big times where since she got her powers that she has felt powerless and is something she never wants to experience again. And so she is lashing out to prevent it at every possible way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So Victoria really wants Goddess to let her go after Kingdom Come and Blindside to support her teammates and to remove any remaining threat of the ankle bombs going off. But Goddess doesn't care about all that. She literally shouts that she doesn't care.
Yeah.
And I think like right now, like we've been saying, she only really cares about her own skin. She doesn't care about anybody else. And yeah, she basically has to shout down Victoria to stop her from arguing.
Yeah. This to me is just more evidence to what we were just talking about, how this is to me how the team is going to break through Goddess's compulsion. I mean, like look at this interaction. Look at how this plays out. My teammates, Goddess, I don't care, she retorted. Her voice was less of a shout as she spoke, more of a hiss. We evacuate. Figure this out. Yes? I was still, my thoughts stuck as I tried to figure a way to reconcile it. So many of the options available meant throwing away lives. Her stare was cold. She found world leaders and went after them one by one. She sank ships. She killed hundreds, even thousands. The eyes of someone that had killed thousands. All around me, killers, terrorists, kidnappers, and worse were staring at Goddess and me. So again, Goddess is pushing up against the limits of what Victoria is capable of. And in this moment, it almost seems as if she's like temporarily like jolted out of the compulsion. She no longer sees Goddess as this perfect person, this moral authority, like this person that's all the best at all the things. In this brief moment, she sees Goddess for exactly what she is: a murderer, a killer, a horrible person, the eyes of someone who has killed thousands, and more. In this moment where things appear to be like temporarily broken, she realizes that she's surrounded and therefore allied with a group of people that are just the same: killers, terrorists, kidnappers, and worse. That all these people are on her side, and they're all looking at her and her interaction with Goddess, and she's not out of it yet, right? Like she definitely doesn't break. Like it's not just like we flip a switch and now she's out of this compulsion, but we do see like it breaks for a minute. Like it's torn down for a little bit.
Yeah, she does keep having these moments where she'll kind of have her own thought, and then her brain will just kind of smooth it over. Like, yeah, it's all right. I'll figure it out, because the most important thing is to do what Goddess says.
Yeah. But this is the first moment, I think, since she's been taken over, that she is direct in admonishing Goddess as like and that she doesn't like recover from it quickly. Like I think it was last week where we said I didn't like that she was doing this, but I could see her point of view. Here, I mean, she calls her a killer.
Yeah, I mean, just and toward the top of the kind of paragraph structure, it says, I was still, my thoughts stuck as I tried to figure out a way to reconcile it. So that's literally she can't get past this obstacle of how many people are going to die.
Yeah.
It's like it's literally like we pointed out before, and like the text has pointed out, running up against that obstacle of like, you're not capable. Basically this is Goddess giving her an order that she is borderline and maybe even actually not capable of following.
Yeah.
And this is how she responds to it. She begins to see the cracks.
Yeah, and I think as Goddess becomes more and more desperate, more and more pushed against the wall, she's going to be giving out more and more of these orders. And I think that's kind of where we're going, is that she's going to eventually push these people to a point where they, compulsion or not, they won't listen, and they will fight back.
Yeah. Another thing I like about this passage that you pulled out is the idea that she is a terrible leader because she doesn't have to be a good leader. Like she's shouting at a subordinate, hissing at them, like basically bullying Victoria, except Victoria isn't really one to be bullied. But the point is, she's never learned how to actually lead people. She just gets by on her power, and everyone just complies, and that's, a weakness, actually.
Hey Matt, I'm having a really hard time not relating this back to current real world political situations. I'm having a really hard time. We're not going to go into it, but it's definitely there.
I have no idea what you're talking about. There's another just kind of passage that everybody, I think, loved on the Reddit and etc. Seer was staring at me. He seemed to be amused that I was facing down Goddess like this and I wasn't coming out ahead. That, or he was just enjoying himself, and he looked like an asshole as a separate, distinct thing. Asshole.
She really doesn't like Seer. I love this because, like, she hates Seer. She hates him. He's an asshole. He's a bad guy. He's a killer. She's working on the same side as him, and that's like the whole ridiculousness of this whole thing, is like she's surrounded by people that everything about her code, her sense of morality, everything about her says these people are wrong. They're bad. I would never work with them. I would never party to them. But the compulsion is such that she just is, and it doesn't make her hate them any less. It just means that at the end of the day, she'll still work with them. Yep.
All right. So Goddess now proceeds to preemptively attack the max security prisoners who they basically suspect of having been given the drugs to make them immune to her. She topples one of their buildings and then orders Seer to go deal with them.
Yeah, she's officially losing her shit and lashing out, but still making her minions take care of it.
Yep. Then things start accelerating pretty quickly. One of the maximum security prisoners approaches. this area with the disturbing shaker effect that begins to cover the whole area. The team splits up, Victoria looking for Cole Belcher, and we're not really sure why at first.
Yeah, I love how Victoria describes that search for Cole Belcher, though. She relates it back to when she was flying around desperately looking for Amy because Dean was injured and she needed Amy to heal him. My zigzag journey continued, haunted by the memory of what had laid at the end of my last such journey. Then I'd been searching for the one face who might be able to help, and I'd been crushed on so many levels by the failure to find. In this, I wasn't even sure the face was an answer. So a lot of Victoria's present issues right now have to do with the fact that each and every choice she's making seems to be against her best instincts, right? Like her instincts are telling her things and she has to make choices because of the Master Stranger stuff that are against them. And this decision to seek out Cole Belcher is one of the biggest examples of kind of acting against instinct that we've seen. And I think the book choosing to relate this directly to a moment where she was searching for Amy to save Dean, this horrible memory that she's connected to, that a search that failed, for a task that failed, for something that was one of the worst moments in her life, I think accomplishes what the book is trying to do here, which is say like how much doing this, going down this road, is tough for Victoria.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you said, she's struggling with herself on like every possible level, and the fact that she's still willing to adhere to the Master Stranger protocols, even when she's got the compulsion working against her. She's got the very fact that the person that she's going to be seeking help from is a villain working against her, because that's kind of against her nature anyway. But she just puts so much stock in that because it's rooted in these good things that are so core to her that she does it anyway.
Yeah, and then we see in this moment that she kind of refocuses, right? Like she's lost, she's making this decision, she's going down this road, and then she takes a moment to kind of collect her selves.
Yeah.
And she says, hit like glory girl, hold nothing back as the wretch, judge like the warrior monk, problem solve as the scholar, and don't lose sight of who you fucking are, because that's a metric shit ton to keep track of, Victoria Dallin. So this is kind of like her gathering herself. She's preparing to do this thing, this big thing, and she's gathering herself for that move. And I wrote here that Victoria has basically become like an entire party in an old school Final Fantasy game, because she's like the scholar, the monk, the wretch, the paladin.
Paladin, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I want someone make some 8-bit art of Victoria in all 4 different ones, like a lineup. Like someone do that for me, please. I can't do it because I'm bad at art, but somebody art this. It'll be really good.
That would be excellent. I can't wait.
Yeah. There's also something that jumped out at me here, Matt, on reread that I completely missed my first time somehow. We get like a little beat where Victoria mentioned Amy's trigger, that Victoria was injured, she got hurt somehow, and Amy triggered trying to help her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the first like canonical mention of how Amy has triggered in the story. I did a little research on this, and there is a Word of God or just some posts by Wildbow kind of going into a little bit more detail on Amy's trigger. Not much more detail, but a little bit more detail. So this is like the first mention of this in the story, and I think this is something we're probably going to explore pretty extensively going forward. So we're just kind of laying the seeds of this a little bit. And it's just like one short sentence, like a blink and you'll miss it thing, and I did. And then I was a reread. I was like, oh, that's important.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if that was new information or not, because I think that was in my brain somewhere due to having read that Word of God. But yeah, this is it's a cool piece of information.
Yeah.
It's also telling, I think, that Victoria doesn't really linger on it. Like this fact is kind of inconsequential to her, and it's like, dear God, Victoria, like this. It proves to you how much she cares about you, right? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, I think that's maybe why she doesn't linger on it, because the relationship between these two girls is so complicated. It's so wrapped up in years of guilt and friendship and love, and it's such a mess. It's such a mess.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So yeah, so as she's flying looking for Cole Belcher, she's having all these issues. She's struggling. We're not entirely sure what she's struggling about
Yeah.
because she can't quite, she's not putting her finger on it for us. So basically, when she reaches him, she tries to wheedle a deal with him despite his resistance. First, she tries to verify that he's not a murderer or a rapist, and since he kind of convinces her that he's not, she tells him that she'll make sure he gets out and doesn't get nabbed by Teacher if he keeps an eye on Natalie. And what it turns out, what's been bothering her is that she feels that putting this level of pressure on Natalie is monstrous, which is a word that she uses several times here.
Yeah. This is, I mean, this is a big deal, Matt. Victoria is kind of breaking her rules here. She's helping a bad guy and kind of putting a bad guy in the way in line to someone she cares about. Like her mission has always been to protect the helpless from the bad people, and now she's kind of steering one right towards one. And I think this is different from the goddess related helping of bad guys she's been doing these past couple chapters, because this doesn't feel like compulsion driven, right? This is Victoria acting over concern for people, concern for Natalie, concern for what's going to happen next. And so this is a different kind of action, and you see her kind of react very negatively to the fact that she has to do it. She does attempt to hedge her bets, right? She's like, well, you're not a murderer or a rapist, right? And he's like, no. And he gives kind of probably a very influenced sob story about why he's in prison, about that he had a rival, and yeah, he beat him up, but it wasn't too bad. It's probably all bullshit, but she tries to hedge her bets against that, but she makes the choice consciously knowing that he's not a very good person, and she's sending this not very good person to help her friend.
Yeah, or something, right? I mean, she has very little trust that this will actually even work out the way she hopes,
Yeah.
but it's a Hail Mary is what it really is. She's like, well, I need guidance. I like this is just going to get worse if I don't get steering from someone who's right in the head. And so she's like basically willing to take this risk, and she's with full awareness putting Natalie at risk. I do wonder if she's not maybe underestimating Natalie a little bit here.
Possibly, yeah.
She's basically thinking of Natalie as like an innocent, which I mean, she is, but she's also someone who's demonstrated some grit.
Yeah, she seizes those moments, Matt.
Yep, she does.
But yeah, I mean, this use of the word monstrous, this is a very loaded word in the Parahumans universe. This is how Taylor described herself there at the end. I remember when she was forgetting her name, and there was one of it, she thought it started with an M, and the consensus among the readership was that she was calling herself a monster in these moments.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big deal. This is a big moment for Victoria, and she says it wasn't lawful, right, or good to be the person who decided he got away for his crime. But she's doing it. And the thing about Victoria is her sense of morality has always been pretty black and white, I think. As opposed to our protagonist in the last book, she's not at home in the gray. She likes clear right and wrong. She likes good and bad. And she doesn't want to deal in the murkiness of that. So this idea that this situation is forcing, like letting one free to save many, for the sake of everyone doing one bad thing, is something that is not really it's not as comforting to Victoria. And it's kind of like this equation feels very Worm-esque to me, right? Like that she's put in the situation where she has to weigh between doing one bad thing for an overall net good. It's like the world is pushing her into this place that she's not comfortable. Like Cauldron was very happy in this world. Decisions like that were just common sense to Taylor, but to Victoria, it's monstrous. And I love that distinction. I love how different it, like the world is pushing her into something that she doesn't want to do, but she feels like she has to. And it is not near as easy for her to live in that world than it is our other protagonist.
Yeah, you can not with too much difficulty put yourself in that frame of mind where you're just like, what's the problem? You're letting one guy out of jail in exchange for solving this whole situation potentially.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's not the way Victoria thinks about things.
Not at all. Yeah, I mean that's not her mindset. She doesn't look at things like that, and she's forced to, and she
Yeah.
does it. Like, I mean, to her credit, like, she recognizes the need and makes the choice and does it. But yeah, it's not easy.
But it's one of those things that makes her such a great character is that she has this integrity and even when she's so kind of adrift and her very like reasoning process is corrupted, she's still sticking to this integrity as much as she possibly can.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when we were back in our being unfair to Taylor days, people kind of would look at what they perceived as my rigid sense of morality and say that I would never survive in a world like this where the choices are like this. And I think part of the reason why I'm enjoying Victoria so much is kind of, I think we're getting to kind of live that. Like how does someone with this inflexible of state survive? And they get a little more flexible.
So what you're saying is in your face, everyone?
No, I would never, I would never do that.
Oh, okay. Just checking. All right. So the chapter ends with Cryptid arriving at the main gate with Amy and also Goddess's missing cluster mate.
I don't think I've ever gone from yay to oh no so quickly. I was like, yay, Chris. Oh, fuck, Amy's back. Amy, go away.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah.
This made me think of the scene from What About Bob when he's like, he never leaves. Look. And he opens the door and Bob's still just standing there. She's still there. She's not going to go away.
You know, I realized something happened in this pair of chapters for me, which is that I went from just kind of tacitly assuming that Amy wasn't mind whammied to tacitly assuming that she was.
Interesting.
With no new information. It was just like my perspective on it shifted, and I was like, you know, everything in her behavior prior to this actually is perfectly explicable as her being aligned with Goddess, but maybe Goddess was telling her to not be a yes man. Like
that's, I mean, I think there's an argument to be had there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, to me, I think that takes away from like the mistakes that Amy has made. Like it takes some of the edge off of it a little bit if it's like the way Amy handled the situation with Victoria, the way she handled the conversations and the confrontations and the fact that she just didn't get out of there. It takes away from it a bit because it makes it more controlled and out of her hands. Like it kind of removes the blame from her a little bit. And I don't want it to do that because I want, and maybe this is just wishful thinking. I'm not saying that the book is actually doing this, but I want this to be Amy's fault, and I want her to recognize it as her fault and not have a scapegoat for that, to kind of to push it off to someone else, to live with that fault and to maybe hopefully have some realizations from it. And I worry that like just saying, and I kind of agree with you that you know, why wouldn't she use her stuff on Amy? That doesn't make sense. That seems very un-Goddess to just choose not to control someone. But I don't know. Maybe it could just be wishful thinking.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I mean, I can see we're getting fairly conjecture-y here, but I can basically see like the mistakes that she's made in her recent interactions with Victoria had nothing to do with like serving Goddess's interests.
That's true.
They were things that she would have done anyway, I think.
That's true. So it could be both.
Yeah.
Basically, it could be she's still a fucking idiot that doesn't fully understand what she did and doesn't fully understand what it did to Victoria. Even though she's a person with the best intentions, she continually makes bad choices, and also still be compulsed by Goddess to continue to be at these situations.
Yes, I believe someone in the Reddit said that Amy must have a path to worst possible choice power.
Yeah, I think that was in last week's Reddit or the week before. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next chapter, 9.13. So Victoria and the team, plus Monoceros and Damsel, are sent down into the tunnel. The lighting splits Victoria's shadow into 6, which narrow to 2 as she enters. And it's a long, narrow tube, and there are many things about it that make it a tactical nightmare.
Yeah, tactically nightmarish. but metaphorically beautiful. The tunnel stabs out. This is the way Wildwood describes it. The tunnel stabs out into the direction of the front gate, into the direction of Teacher and of Amy. Victoria, a person divided, is casting 6 shadows, but when she heads down towards her goal, when she heads down to her direction, the number of shadows shrinks almost as if she's gathered them together and gained focus towards her goal, her mission. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's such a good opening paragraph.
Yeah, all of her Victoria personalities coalescing
Right,
as
exactly.
she heads down the straight line toward the target. It's awesome.
Yep.
It's fantastic. There's a brief semi-comic exchange as everybody offers to lead, and then Victoria shuts them down. It's like, no, I'm leading. I was just shut up. Tristan then makes large riot shields to be held up by Victoria and by himself, and the two of them take point.
Yeah, let's talk about Damsel here for a bit. Let's talk about Slashley.
Okay.
As we're calling her. I was first, I'm not going to lie, when I saw her I saw tracks being laid that she's going to take a more active role in the story proper, I was a little concerned. And I'm still not entirely sold on the idea, but I do think she's really great here. And I think someone on Discord pointed out, and again, I'm sorry, I apologize, I don't remember who it was, but pointed out last week that it's interesting that while Damsel is posturing in a very like old Ashley-like way, she hasn't actually done anything aggressive or violent. She hasn't even tried to, at least as far as we can tell. Like, this conversation is hilarious, but she's pretty just like abruptly told, no, you don't get to lead. No, you're not in charge. And she just deals with it.
Yeah.
We talked before about how Slashley is like the perfect foil for Ashley, how her twin can represent a mirror in which we can measure her recovery, measure how much she's changed. I think that still could and is the case, but increasingly I'm seeing this as something a little bit more interesting, a little bit more complicated. What if with the two damsels, instead of seeing one on the road to the recovery and one stagnant, what if we're seeing just 2 different paths to recovery? Because recovery is this complex thing, and everyone has their own route to get there. Everyone has their own issues they need to get over, or get over is a bad word, issues they need to deal with and find a way to live with. And no 2 roads look the same. So I think instead of stagnant and change, we can see these 2 people as different kinds of change. And when we look at it in that lens, I am so into it.
Yeah, me too. There's a moment later, I don't think I pulled out, where Victoria just snaps at her, and she kind of takes it yet again. So I think there's quite a bit of evidence here that this is not the Slaughterhouse 9 member damsel of distress who was on the verge of just snapping all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of she seems to be channeling that need to posture, but productively the same way that Swansong does, but in her own way. So not the same, but
yeah. And I think there are multiple beats throughout the rest of this chapter that reinforce this idea, right? That this damsel is not the Slaughterhouse 9 one. It is not the Ashley we saw back in her interludes. This one has changed as well, and we don't know the details of that change. We can speculate on it, but it's way more interesting than I originally gave it credit for.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to focus on here is that Victoria is holding up that shield, Matt, and she's using the wretch. So she's in this small, confined tunnel right next to people she cares about, and also Monacaros. And she has the wretch out constantly, not just like brief moments. Just like she has it out, and I love this because the book basically forces this situation, right? Like, she's in a tunnel, she has to hold a really heavy shield, so the book kind of contrives a reason for her to have the wretch out. But because this plot contrivance matches up with Victoria's mental transformation that occurred over the last few chapters, like, it feels totally earned, right? It's not just like a thing happens out of necessity. It feels earned in relation to her coalescing of identities.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been um, the I couldn't be happier about the way she's gradually come to some degree of acceptance
Yeah.
with the wretch. It's just so beautifully done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the book is forcing that acceptance to be displayed by putting her in situations like this where, hey, guess what? Gotta keep the wretch out for a long time now. It's necessary. Sorry. It's the most risky place for it to be out, but you're gonna have to do it.
and she doesn't really have a long like or really any of that internal monologue of like the negative the negative thoughts and feelings that come along with the wretch,
Right.
the dysphoria, what it reminds her of, flashes of memories. It's just like, yep, gonna need the wretch to carry this because it's heavy.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
what it's for.
Monocaros is there, who is a person that didn't know the existence of this thing. I guess you can assume that the damsel did through our Ashley knew about the existence of the wretch, but she is just using it, and it's not something that can't be seen because the wretch is carrying a shield. So it's like it's like there's a shield floating in front of her. There's something going on here. And yeah, she's fine with it. I mean, she definitely has cringes and audible or visual reactions to when the wretch kind of like digs at the corner of the tunnel or kind of crushes the shield a little bit, like where she seems to lose control of it. She cringes, but that's much less of a, oh my god, this disgusting part of me cringe, and more of a I'm struggling, like this thing is still not really in my control cringe.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, more like I wish I could control it better. Yeah, I agree. So as they're entering the situation, Kinsey mentions offhand that her cameras can, or at least potentially could, track social relationships. Which, sure, why not?
Great, that's what we need, a fucking Facebook camera. Thanks Kenzie. I I love how everyone's freaking out about that one, but we have poor Monocaros over here like, wait, past camera? That was like four arcs ago, Unicorn Lady. Matt, someone's not caught up on her reading.
No, it's not going to help her.
But I like this is, it's such a little tiny little beat, but I think it's so cinematic. Like she said she can take pictures of the past, and you're focusing on that. Monocaros asked dry. Yeah, Rain said. The rest of us nodded, and I can see that scene. Like I can see. I say this so often in this, and I think it's just because Wadbo is such a visual writer that these scenes kind of unfold before me in a very movie-like fashion. I can see the camera like tilt after Rain says it, and then like tilt to the rest of the group in the background, and all of them just like slowly nodding, and it's just this wonderful comedic beat that I can totally see, and I love it so much.
Yeah, me too. I agree about the cinematic thing. There's a moment later on where I think I'm definitely going to want to talk about
Oh, the
how
the
it's
end of
cinematic.
the whole ending scene of the chapter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole ending sequence. So kind of at around this point, there's just a moment where everybody kind of chimes in. Not everybody, but a few people chime in and clarify that they hate Monocaros and would be fine if she died.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, samesies.
Yeah. So Kinsey shows them some footage of Kingdom Come and presumably Blindside entering the tunnel along with one of the prisoners, so they kind of know what they're getting into. Victoria gives everyone a primer on fighting Blindside and what to do. Shortly afterward, she feels a resistance to moving forward and then kind of tries to drop her shield, hoping it'll fall on Blindside, but no such luck.
Was it dropping? Like I kind of felt like she was like flying forward really fast and then like released the wretch, so like she kind of threw it at him.
I wasn't sure. Basically, I wasn't sure if she had already decelerated due to the fact that she was feeling the resistance, and thus it would be more of a drop, or if she was still actually had forward velocity. So
Yeah, it's semantics. She threw a big rock at him.
Tried to,
and it missed.
Didn't work, and
Yeah.
I don't think it could have worked.
Yeah.
I mean, I get what she was trying to do, but yeah.
Yeah.
Blindside takes the opportunity to characterize themselves.
Yeah, and he's such an interesting guy, isn't he? He once again like prefaces everything by warning everyone that if they try to look too hard, their necks are gonna break. He doesn't want to kill people. He's just a mercenary, and he has a job to do, and he doesn't even really want to fight. He's just like, look, I could kill you all right now. Just go, leave, and we don't have to do this. He's crude. He's kind of offensive, but I kind of like him. Like he's just a mercenary.
Yeah, I mean it's true that they could just like open fire on this crowd of people, and there's nothing that the heroes could do in response. But instead, they're like, really, really like you're not gonna win. Like I know you're not gonna win.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get past me. Just turn around, and then he basically tries to talk them out of it, then charges them and tases one of them. Um, but doesn't take it farther than that, and
Yeah.
like fairly restrained actually. So I think that is kind of a likable trait in your mercenaries.
Yeah.
So next, Damsel suggests that the others are just planning on leaving Blindside behind, the other teacher people, and I like that Kinsey seems aghast and says, "You weren't that kind of person, right?" And Damsel responds, "I never did it, no, but power makes people callous. I might have." And I like this again because this is Damsel talking, not Swan Song, and it suggests something about the manner in which this Ashley has been growing as a person and reflecting on and facing things about her past.
Yeah, exactly. Even this Ashley is introspective. There's an argument to be made. Like we talked about those two paths to recovery. I wonder like how much of this change in Damsel is because of her interaction with Swan Song. I don't remember how long Ashley's been in the prison. It's time is relative in this book. Like it's been like I still think it's been only like 36 hours since the broadcast. So it's still been like the worst fucking couple days for Victoria ever.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if it was this damsel a path to change on her own, or is this Swan Song having an effect on her sister? Is this her interaction and her kind of talking with her and spending time with her and thinking through things together, thinking through their weaknesses together, that's rubbing off on her?
I don't know. She seemed slightly mellower when Ashley went back to prison and met her.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
But that might have just been because it was her sister. So yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they continue to try to spar with Blindsight. Doesn't work. Rain tries to tase Capricorn. Doesn't work. Tases Rain instead.
The text says poor Rain.
Yeah.
And that's like exactly what's my thought too. It's just like Capricorn makes her move, tries to get chased. Oh, it doesn't work. I guess I'll go for the next best thing. Here's this guy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm enjoying the role he's currently filling in the story. I look forward to the story getting more serious with him and jumping back into some of his challenges to come. But for right now, this works. I laughed. It's great. More of this.
Yes. Damsel saves the day, pulling out her badass ultimate finishing move and holding up a contained sphere of her annihilation power, threatening to just kind of like release it and blow everything away. But in the end, even this Ashley won't put Kinsey at risk, and the team ends up retreating back to the surface at Victoria's order.
Man, more instances of her changing, right? Like, I think this is just because I'm in love with my two paths to recovery, kind of examination so much that I'm just seeing it everywhere. But I really do love this. We're getting little hints and clues that she is different, and she cares about Kinsey, and her caring about Kinsey might just come from a promise she made to Ashley. I don't know, but it's still there.
It also strikes me that if she knew Kinsey's story, then she would also care about Kinsey for the same reason that Swan Song does, which is that she relates to her.
Yeah. But I mean, we do have to say that the physical nature of her, how she looks physically, is representative of the fact that she is approaching becoming better or moving on or living her life in a fundamentally different way than Ashley is, but still seems like she's moving towards something good.
Yeah, I agree.
So before we move on, I just want to talk about our team lost. Like, they lost this fight. They win against Blindside, and they had to turn around and leave and find a new way. And I really love this because, like, this is Blindside's element, right? Like, he's in a straight line tube standing there, and all he has to do is stand there and he wins because they need to get by him. And So like I think it would be almost unrealistic for a team to be able to actually like beat him in this situation. So they can't beat him. They just like have to like blindside him.
Are you mean sneak around the back, Scott?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah. But I just love that the book was willing to just be like, okay, look, we lost this. Let's retreat and come up with another way. I think sometimes in especially in like superhero stories or power stories, you're kind of so afraid of making your character seem weak that you don't want them to lose. And I don't think Wildbow does that. And I think this is a good example of that. It's like sometimes they just lose.
Hmm.
And this is another example of that, especially when you're up against a guy who is in his element. Like this Blindside's power and a straight line tube that he wants people to not get to the other side of is like the perfect instance of him to use his power.
Yeah, right. And it's a situation where I don't know. I'm imagining like I don't want to make too many Taylor comparisons. Seems like I think we do a good job not making too many Taylor comparisons, but like seems like Taylor would have been like I'm going to find out a way. I'm going to figure out a way of beating this person.
Yeah.
I'm going to get through this person. Whereas Victoria is kind of able to just be like, okay, all right, we'll back off. You know, you win this round. Like she doesn't have a lot of ego in it,
Yeah.
which is a good character trait for a hero.
Matt, I thought of a fun game, and I don't know if the game's good or not because I think it invites too much worm comparison for our tastes. But I think a fun game would be to take complex situations in which Victoria finds herself in the story, and kind of what would Taylor doing like out of that situation?
Mm-hmm.
Like if Taylor was placed in this exact same situation, how would she solve it? I think that would be a fun thing to do. Again, I don't want to get too rolled up in comparing these two books and these two characters, but I think that's just fun to kind of explore Taylor's personality a bit.
Yeah,
Because I think you're right. She would have approached this whole thing very different.
I think part of the reason why I'm careful not to do it too much is that it's tempting to do because these two protagonists are so different, but speaking to so many of the same themes that you do want to, you could even play the opposite game and say, how would Victoria respond to
Yeah.
Slaughterhouse-9 coming into her town? She'd probably get melted. Oh,
Ouch.
ouch. Yeah. Well, but see, that was old Victoria, and I think that's the point. She's learned. She's much more cautious now.
I will say that when we first started, I was much more concerned about not comparing back to Worm too much because I wanted like this is a new book, it's a different thing. I don't want to rely too much on the old book to make direct comparisons to this book, but the further we've explored the story in this world, they are linked. Like it is not the same theme. They're not the same characters, but they're themes playing off the themes of the old thing. They're characters playing off the characters of the old book. So, I mean, like, I think it's a little disingenuous to deny that there's direct relationships between these stories. It is not a sequel. It is not like an anthology type sequel where it's new characters, same world. It is absolutely a continuation of the story and should be treated as such.
Yeah, I think I agree with you completely. Yeah, I don't think I've ever like avoided a Taylor comparison because just for the sake of avoiding it. So yeah.
Oh, I have.
Okay.
I definitely have. When we were starting out, like the first few arcs,
Yeah,
I was very conscious about overdoing that and held back.
fair enough.
I definitely recently less so.
Yeah, that was like 5 years ago or something. I don't really remember what my
It was almost a year ago, believe it or not. It was January.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, so they, as you say, they try to blindside. Kenzie starts using her system to try to locate the tunnels from the surface.
Yeah. It's great. They blindside him.
Yep.
It's my joke.
And there's a little interplay here where they're talking about a lot of things. Basically, just some.
There's a lot of rambling and like inter-team
banter.
comedy. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the word.
That's the word we were both fumbling for. And Monocaros, I missed out on the tweens between. Monocaros said wistfully, I liked them from what little I saw of them. They had moxie. Oh, hey, another fan. Moxie is a great way of Lookout said. She stopped, working for a second, looking up. No, wait, hey, that's awful. No. Um,
Jesus Christ.
which that's great because she's like laughing, and which means she's
Yeah.
terribly disturbed.
Yeah. She's just so horrified right now.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I like Monocaros is going to become a problem, right? Like, I mean, like, we're mostly like being ominous with her and then like playing her for a little bit of comedic jokes here and there, but like she's attached to Lookout and is not going to be letting her go. So this is absolutely something that is like in the background of all this. This is going to be a situation we're going to have to deal with this soon, and I'm enjoying the funny while I have it because it's going to go horror really soon, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I'm worried about this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's this next bit where we're just kind of underlining this theme that's going on with Victoria. For a moment, it was all I could do just to keep my equilibrium, stay calm, and try not to think. 110%. It's not about being the warrior monk. It's about being all of it, getting to where every part of me functions and functions well. So yeah, we're revisiting this idea that she, and she's not just we, but she is revisiting this idea to herself that it's about integrating the different parts of her and being a whole person.
Yeah, the thing I love so much about this new kind of self-actualization strategy that Victoria has is how like inherently flexible it is. When she was just trying to capture this idea of the warrior monk, she'd fall down these thinking rabbit holes and kind of zone out. And then the fact that she fell down these rabbit holes and thought back of old trauma and old things would make her feel guilty and make her feel like she's failing to live up to the warrior monk, and it would just be kind of this vicious cycle that would spin out of control. Here, she's now created or realized these four distinct personalities that she is like inhabiting simultaneously, and she's willing to kind of roll with it, right? Like, so if a situation requires warrior monkness, she'll like spin into that one. If she's in a moment where she's struggling and thinking, the act of thinking is actually detrimental to her, she can roll into one of the other personalities and not feel that guilt from not achieving them. It's like she's adaptable now. She's flexible. She can roll with things more, adjust on the fly, and doesn't get bogged down in the stuff. And there are dangerous parts of this too, potentially. Like there's this, you push yourself away from the personality that would do the right thing in this moment to go for one that allows you to get through it. Like I see a dangerous side of this, but for now, I really like it. I really like that she's able to just navigate these complex situations, and like she's still struggling, but she's able to recover from it in ways that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I got nothing to add to that. That was perfect. I agree.
Cool.
So they find the location where they're going to need to dig, and Damsel uses her enhanced power to annihilate the ground quickly and efficiently. Victoria muses on how this enhanced and in control power of Ashley's relates to the possibility of her perhaps gaining that kind of control over her own power. She thinks, the power geek in me wanted to spend hours thinking about what that meant, drawing an analogy between Swansong and Damsel, and me and something else. What that something else? Was that something I could chase? Something I should chase?
Wow, Matt, I love that. We're taking this talk about Damsel and Ashley that we've had, and tying this directly into Victoria and her stuff. We have these two people who went two different ways, made two different choices. And again, up until this chapter, I thought that the book was telegraphing that Ashley made the right choices. Ashley went the right way, and Damsel / Ashley went the wrong way. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Ashley isn't great. She is. I love her so much. Please don't die, Ashley. But I love it. Now we've kind of seen that Slashley is much more like she's much more like the old Damsel than Swansong is. She is changing. She is different. Victoria looked at her a couple of chapters ago and could see this person. She said in her eyes she could see the person that was a member of the Slaughterhouse Nine right there in her look. And maybe she still is that person on some level, but I don't think that's quite all she is.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, if we really look at Ashley comprehensively, she was barely a Slaughterhouse-9 member in the first
Right.
place. She was not a typical member, um, and this is that person. You know,
Right.
this
Right.
is the person who died regretting her choices.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think I love that Victoria sees this improved control. She kind of sees this path that Damsel took, this choice that Damsel made. Damsel chose to keep the deformity that Bonesaw built into her that allowed her to control her power better. She made that choice. She made the choice to stay like that. Swansong did not. Swansong rejected that choice. Swansong wanted to kind of be more human and less monstrous, let's say.
Hmm.
And I think that's where we see the payoff of last chapter's talk of monstrousness, right? Like Victoria is questioning, like she sees this control of power and part of her wants it. She wants to be able to have that level of control over the wretch. And maybe what the book is positing to us is like embracing the more monstrous side of yourself. Is that the way to achieve that? Is that the way to get to that level of control? And is that worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen evidence that it's going to be maybe more nuanced even than just like embracing the monstrousness. It's like, well, the monstrousness is part of you.
Right.
You're sort of being disingenuous by trying to reject it if you can't actually reject it. So find a way to integrate it in a healthy way, whatever that looks like, and that's going
Right.
to look different for each person, I think.
Yeah, and that's why I love this idea of Damsel as a different road, right? Because maybe that's what she's doing. Maybe what Ashley did was reject that side of her and find a way to recovery that rejects that thing. And it is difficult for her. It is very difficult for her. She is still struggling with it. She was afraid to fight Lung for fear of going too far again.
Hmm.
And so maybe Damsel represents a different way, but a way that could be successful, and Victoria could go down that route and achieve success that way. Get to a place of recovery, get to a place of happiness, of some form of content with her life and who she is and what she is and what happened to her. I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know, but I just like the possibilities are there, and we've taken a character who last week I said, man, Matt, I don't know what Damsel has left, or rather Ashley. I don't know what Ashley has left. I think she's gonna die. And we've taken her and we've added this wrinkle to it that kind of reignites the potential in these two twin clones that I'm fascinated with, and I can't wait to see how it pays off.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I don't think much of this occurred to me consciously while reading. But yeah, it's really cool ideas.
Yeah, I agree. This was something that did not kind of jump out at me really until I went in and started analyzing.
Hmm. So yeah, so Damsel gets them close to the top of the tunnel. Rain weakens the last of the barrier with his lines. Antares breaks through, followed by Capricorn to seal off the rear so Blindside can't catch up with them. Basically, it's just an awesome moment of collaborative teamwork.
Yeah, and Lookout's the one that told them where it was. So
Yep.
yeah, each and every one of them plays a role in this moment, and it's really great. It's really great. I love it.
Yeah, and so this I think this is like the velocity of the scene began there actually.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
the momentum is maybe the better word, and then it continues on and even accelerates as they blitz into the bunker at the end of the tunnel, um, and then the scene is into the underground bunker, past a room with 10 bunk beds, past a kitchen, and into the larger room, into the situation.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right that the pace like kicks up a notch. Right.
Yeah,
Like they drop down in here, and we both like fast forward and then slow motion, and like
yeah,
we're doing kind of like start and stops, and I think that really accentuates the impact of these moments, because
yeah,
this is like a big moment here.
yeah. So Victoria, after like rushing through that, takes a few paragraphs to process everything she's seeing. And the way it's written gives you this sense that it's all happening in like a matter of a fraction of a second. Like she's flicking her
Yeah.
eyes across the scene, and she's perceiving all of these things that she's listing out to you. She notes the other prisoner, Thane, who's using some tech and an elaborate chair to try to do something involving the console and the machinery that's there. She notes Tress, of far more consequence, out of her armor, her tendrils going nuts, and she's streaked with blood. And of course, the first thing we think is a big fat uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly. And the weird thing is, we know Kingdom comes down there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still, the first thing that jumped in your mind when you see Sveta tendrils lashing out is she killed someone, didn't she? She lost control and killed someone. Her suit was damaged. Her tendrils got out. People are dead. And
Yeah.
Sveta did it. And it's the worst possible thing that could happen. It's like, out of everything that could happen to this poor girl, this is the worst. And you're just like, oh, no.
Yeah, it's just that that's slightly more like available to your mind than like, oh yeah, Kingdom Come, just trying to control her but can't, and
Right.
it's having trouble. Yeah. So yeah, Victoria thinks that too. So it's not just our fault. The text is leading us to think that, because we
Right.
see her thinking but not thinking that Sveta has killed everybody. I love how that's done, because I'm just going to read it. Victoria's head turned my way by a rotation and flexibility that a normal neck didn't have. Her face was streaked in blood, her eyes were wide, and she was lost in herself in a way that broke my heart to see. That heartbreak stopped when I saw a grouping of tendrils move, but it wasn't a good stopping. It was sudden, numbing shock that stopped all other feelings, thoughts, and processes. The grouping of tendrils all grasped the same thing, a lump of a shape in black fabric. Blood streaked the smooth ground where the fabric touched it. So basically, she's not thinking Sveta killed someone, right? She's making these observations that obviously can, like, the dots connect to form the picture of Sveta killed someone. But I love that Victoria can't actually think the thought to herself.
Yeah, she can't, quote unquote, say it.
Yeah, verbalizes. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And the writing here is so good. I love, like, it's one thing to build great moments in books. It's another, I think, to have the awareness and the recognition that this is a big moment, and to tailor your writing towards recognizing that. I think we said this once before when we talked about the Kenzie dinner scene, where it's very clear going into this that this is a big, all-important moment, because the writing reflects that. I think you look at what you just read, and that's what you see here. Like, this is big. It is important. It is a moment in this book that we think we're about to have, and the writing measures that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love it so much. I love the heartbreak stopped when I saw a grouping of tendrils move, but it wasn't a good stopping.
Mm-hmm.
I love that so much.
Yeah, I agree. I love how this moment was set up and how it's executed. And
importantly, it doesn't feel like a trick, right? Like the book isn't tricking us. We think this, Victoria thinks this, and then we realign our thoughts a little bit later. It's not like, haha, it's not a gotcha.
Yeah.
It's a realistic kind of earned expression of everyone's worst fear when it comes to Sveta.
Yeah, and I also like that it's not like a full relief when you find out, oh, it's just Kingdom Come. It's like, no, it's Sveta's body outside of its shell, not in control of itself, still a hazard. And still bad for Sveta as a person.
I mean, she's going to be feeling the after effects of that lost control. That's not going to do well for her. And I mean, I don't think there's any indication here, but God, can you imagine what would have happened if Kingdom Come did gain control, and then since he couldn't control it, Sveta did kill someone, and it was not her doing it, was Kingdom Come's fault, but how that would still weigh on her.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It wouldn't be good.
Yeah, because I mean, in her mind, I can very easily see it just being like, look, I mean, I put myself in a situation where I could be mastered, and then my body was used for that, so it's my responsibility, and I think that's how she would see it.
I mean, if she doesn't she doesn't make the distinction between I killed someone when I was in control of my body. Like, she already doesn't make that distinction. She already says, no, that was me. I was responsible for it, and it eats me up inside that it happened. So a mastered power making her do that, I don't think she's going to make that distinction either. I don't think she's going to divorce herself from blame there either.
Exactly. So yeah, finally, we and the text and Victoria all realize that it's Kingdom Come.
Thank God.
when when he throws his giblet-filled clothing at her, actually. So he's actually like trying to tell her that, I think. Like
Yeah.
it may even be that he's like freaking out. Like I can't control this thing, help.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, we saw him in like in the body of the guy that was dying, right? And he's
mhm,
like freaking out because it's scary and painful, and yeah. So I
mhm.
think you're probably spot on there.
Yeah. Thane, the other guy, the Tinker, seems to have been using some tech to keep Sveta at bay, some kind of force field. Rain disables it by kicking it repeatedly. Um,
There, attaboy, Rain.
I like that a lot. That it's just like not even using his power; he's just kicking it repeatedly. And then they get a message on the radio, presumably from someone teacher affiliated, saying, "Leave her with nothing." And Kingdom Come then responds by moving inside, or by by trying to make his way to the console to try to activate the bombs on this particular little glass-covered panel. Realizing that Tristan's attempts to keep the tendrils at bay with stone are not working, Victoria and Tristan share a look and tacitly agree on the need to take a risk. Byron emerges and floods the chamber, destroying the server.
Yeah, so that's the choice they make in the end there, right? The idea of losing everyone is worth it to make sure that her friends don't get hurt or people don't die or have their legs exploded.
Mm-hmm.
So they make that choice, and they make that choice silently. I love that. Like, this is such a, it's so good. It's show don't tell. It's like it's so cinematic. You can see they just both look at each other, and there's this nod, and they both know what's gonna happen. Or I think actually what we see is Tristan just takes a deep breath, right? He just like takes this deep breath, and in this moment, Victoria knows exactly what he's gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how the moment plays out. I can see it in my mind. I can see the scene in a movie. It's such a wonderful culmination, and it's such a great, wonderful way to end this chapter.
Yeah, it's awesome. Um, can't wait for I don't know. Are we gonna wrap up Arc 9? What do you think?
Man, I don't know anymore.
Yeah,
I thought absolutely sure, but I don't
yeah.
know.
Pointless to
Um,
guess, right?
yeah,
All right, let's do a little
but I
tiny
mean,
bit. Go ahead.
so I just like the choice that was made is a big one, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the prison is officially gone,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it was being destroyed, but we've kind of officially said the server's down. Um, all these people are freed now. There's nothing stopping all these people from escaping back into the world, and they made that choice, and they felt like they had to, and I think that's fair.
Yeah, they've wiped out the backup too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely worth
Oh
saying.
yeah,
And
yeah. No one's coming too, right? That's
yeah,
the other thing.
no
Is
one
that yeah,
no one's coming, and this was, as far as we know, like as far as Victoria knows, and as far as we know, this is like Teacher's backup plan. Now,
right.
I of course think the Teacher has at least one more layer of backup plan on top
I'm
of
sure
this.
he does. This
Um,
fucking guy.
but like, it's definitely a victory for the goddess forces, that they're able to to stop this from working,
I,
and yeah.
I guess we could call that a good thing.
Yeah, it's a win for our side.
Look, Rain doesn't get his leg blown off, so I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, awesome, 2 chapters. Let's do a
All
little
right.
bit of name game.
All right, so we had two new names we were introduced here, and I told someone we were going to do a name game of Byron and Tristan. We are going to go down that rabbit hole. We're not going to do it this week. One, because I ran out of time, and two, because I think it feels better to do that on the conclusion to our Byron Tristan 3 beat of interludes that I still think is going to happen, Matt.
Sounds
So
good
we'll
to me.
save that for later. Yeah.
Let's do it that way. So
Okay.
right now, though, Flens, which was the name of the young cape,
Yeah.
and I love how Victoria reacted to that name. It means strip skin or fat from a carcass.
So I'm sure he doesn't do that, right?
Well, I mean, maybe this is Flay's alive man.
It could be Flay's alive, man. Oh Jesus.
Oh, Chris, and your humor.
Why can't things just be good and
I don't,
happy?
I don't know. The happy power. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other name is Thane. In
We
Anglo-Saxon England, it means a man who held land granted by the king or by a military nobleman ranking between an ordinary freeman and a hereditary noble. And then in Scotland, slightly different, a man often the chief of a clan who held land from a Scottish king and ranked with an earl's son. So basically, it's kind of a English/Scottish rank of lowly gentry, I guess you could
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, and we don't really know anything about this guy. We might not learn anything else about him. He might be drowned. But I think let's just keep that stuff in mind if we do learn more about him.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so now discussion question from this week. Pick a character and explain how they are the author of their own destruction.
Yeah, this is kind of connected thematically to how we think that Goddess is going to be the one to destroy herself. And I think this is not the first time this has happened, and it's not going to be the last. And I'm curious what we think about, like, you destroy yourself is saying about some of the ideas around this book.
Yeah. My only
really complicated way of explaining the thing that you said in one sentence. I'm a little verbose tonight.
It's fine. It's always good to clarify what the question means, I think. I have no problem with that. That said, that's all we got for you this week, and we've got Ward. You guys are all part of this show, so feel free to provide us with advice, questions, or thoughts on this week's reading.
You can reach us via email at gotwormpod@gmail.com or on Twitter @gotwormpod. My personal Twitter is @ScottDaily85, and Matt's is @Flensthane. It's @More Dynamo.
If you're not already subscribed to We've Got Ward, we strongly recommend you do so and never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else in the world that you can listen to podcasts.
And as always, you can find this and all the other podcasts we do over at doofmedia.com. We've got new episodes of our other shows, Vow to View and the Doofcast, coming out each and every week. And we're going to have a new episode of Weaver Dice one day. We were just talking about that the other day, and we need to get that out. It's coming, promise.
It's in the can. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's in 4 separate cans that need to be combined into one can and then edited down to be a not so huge size can with background noise in it.
Yeah, that's true. That's right, Scott. And if you want to support any of our shows, consider donating to our Patreon account, patreon.com/doofmedia. You can donate $1 a month or whatever else you can afford. Supporting us on Patreon gives you tons of great bonuses like voting in our quarterly fan art contest, costume contest, Q&A sessions, access to live streams of our recording sessions, and our excellent Discord chat. Special thanks to new Bidoof donor Eric P at the $5 level and Doof Warrior Zachary S at the $20 level. Thanks so much, y'all.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That's awesome. You guys are awesome.
Matt, we're thinking of adding a new stretch goal that's between a current one. So we're not ready to announce that yet, but I guess we're ready to preview the announcement for some reason. I decided to do this.
We're announcing the possibility of an announcement.
Yeah. So look out for that.
Maybe.
We're looking to do some fun stuff, and we've got some ideas, and patreon.com/doofmedia. Boop.
Yeah. And as always, make sure you go over to Wildbow's Patreon, patreon.com/wildbow. Donate to him as well, because this is his world. We're just playing in it.
And if you cannot afford to donate right now, that is absolutely okay. You can instead help us out by going over to Apple Podcasts and leaving us a rating and a review. We have 2 reviews this week, Matt. First comes from Andre Perez 327, who gives us 5 stars and says, incredibly satisfying way to revisit this awesome web serial. Would definitely recommend if you love the story of Worm. Also, Geekling713 also gives us 5 stars and says, like Scott, I am a first-time reader, and I've really enjoyed having this as my companion piece. This analysis is very thorough, and have been a great springboard for my conversations with people who got me to read Worm in the first place. It's also really fun to follow along with Scott's speculations, comparing and contrasting them with my own. It makes me sad when I can't listen to any more episodes because I haven't finished the next arc, but I look forward to catching up and participating in the community discussions as new episodes are released. Wow. Those are some really nice reviews. Thanks, both of you, and thanks to everyone who has taken the time to go over to Apple Podcasts and leave those rating and reviews. They really do help. They make us look way more legit, and also Apple algorithms around like spotlighting and showing podcasts is based on how many people rate and review it. It's a weird nebulous thing that we don't see all of it, but we do know that more reviews equals good. So thank you for doing that, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. And it always makes me feel really good when someone tells us that we're actually enhancing their reading experience.
Yeah, that means the world to me. That's
Yeah.
that's the goal, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great that we're achieving that to some people.
Yeah. All right, that's all for this week. We'll be back next week to cover more Ward. We know that there's at least one more Gleaming chapter, but will there be 2 or 3 or anyway?
Yeah. I'm out of the speculation game. I'm not gonna say we'll be back.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. Got us a Trump.
Okay. Good stuff.
I haven't decided whether I'm gonna leave that in or not. It'll be a game time decision.
I'm gonna leave that up to you because you're the one who said it.
Night, Dragonberry. Thanks for hanging out.
Good night.
Your mic just switched, by the way.
Figures.
Because you moved it.
Yeah.
You made the mistake of moving your mic.
So,
there you go.
That's so inexplicable. Inconceivable. As a wise man once said. Oh, my fucking voice, everyone.
How's it doing, man?
Fucking sucks, man.
It wasn't that noticeable. I mean, I could tell your voice was tired, but it wasn't like, oh my god, he sounds awful.
Well, there was one moment in there where it did that like fry thing, and I was just, I like flinched visibly. Anyway.
It's okay. It was great. It was a good episode, I think.
Yeah.
It's a little rocky at first. I was having trouble saying words, which is never good when you're recording audio.
Thanks, Wildbow. Yeah, I had this. I actually, in the first half, I was like, when we get to the end of the first chapter, I'm going to say that I can't continue, and we'll take a break. But then,
oh no.
Then once we wrapped up the first chapter, I was like, I'm just gonna finish because it's tolerable.
Well, I appreciate you taking one for the team.
Sure. Yeah, I hope this gets better. I'm gonna go take some NyQuil.
Okay.
I'll be back though. Don't cut me out.
I'm not gonna cut you out. You guys didn't get to see the script, so you don't see a part when Matt said, "Just took some NyQuil. I'm gonna work on this until I pass out," which is what he said at the start of the second chapter, right?
Well, so last night I started summarizing the second chapter. I took some NyQuil and then I started working, and then I started falling asleep, and then I wrote, and then the NyQuil kicked in.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, all right.
So jealous of Matt's green screen. It's not fair. That's messy. Why is that like that? Is it because... didn't clean up my thing, and it's all messy. I have all these files open on Audition from last week
Why'd you do that?
because I'm bad.
Hmm.
These into one form. Oh man, everyone having a good week so far? It's early in the week still, right? It's only Tuesday. I don't even keep track anymore. Matt, what are you doing?
I'm experimenting since I got. I mean, this is a good opportunity to experiment because I can see how things are actually going to look.
That's fair. And interpret. I did the thing where I said something and then realized I don't want to talk about it yet, but I'd already said it. So I might just remove the part where we're talking about the stretch goal. I might just cut that on out.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really say any information one way or the other, so.
Yeah, it's just comes off as awkward.
I'm just gonna see if I can play a game and if that actually works, or if it just like kills everything. If you don't mind.
Sure.
I mean, like for the sake of streaming, you know.
Yeah. I can make your screen sized if you want.
Now I'm not sure if I'll be able to see any of this because I'll have a game up. I only have one monitor so far.
Yeah, you got to get 2 of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, good luck with that appointment, Zendrex. I do have a thing. I was fooling around with streaming too, and I realized that I was looking at Life is Strange 2, and I realized that if I'm not actively on the game screen, even in windowed mode, none of the sounds are playing.
Mm.
And I know streaming, I'm gonna be jumping between windows a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
some games have a play sounds even when not selected, and I didn't see it for that one, and I was wondering how streamers solve that problem. I mean, realistically, the way big streamers solve that problem is they have 2 different computers, one running the stream and one running the game. But
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've ever played around with how it behaves in Discord, but in Discord there seems to be specifically a streaming mode. I don't know if you looked at that or anything.
yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I think that just hides notifications and stuff. I think.
I just want to toggle out for a second. Is any of that working? Were you seeing any of that?
No, I just saw your face. There was no game.
There's no game. Hmm.
Now I'm seeing lots of reflections of your faces. Although maybe it's just because I think it's just because the version of your face that I have on here is heavily. Man, you look like a real streamer now, Matt. You're so cool.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going for.
So that's just OBS, and you just have that pushing to Skype.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh god, no. Oh god, abort.
Hmm. So then when I click over the game, it just doesn't. So you don't see any of this.
I just see
Why
you.
the fuck not?
You gotta turn on game capture.
What's that? What?
Go add press the plus
Well, I have
button
it
on
on just.
OBS.
Yeah, well, I
Add
have it on
game
this
capture.
game capture, so I can't just say display capture. I have to say game capture.
It works,
Any
but
any full screen application.
no, don't do that one. Just you can pick the game. It'll if you drop down if there's a game running, it'll find the game.
Well, well, well. Did that do anything?
Nope.
Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that.
So now it's like me commenting on Matt's stream. This is great.
Hmm. It should be working.
It's not though.
Hmm.
Yeah, I didn't notice how like low res your Skype image is until I blew it up real big.
Hmm.
I know if the same thing happens to mine. No, mine's pretty good. Although, yeah, you can start to see some of the artifact in here. Man, my computer did not like trying to open the file explorer. It freaked the fuck out of me. It's not a good sign. You are, by the way, still on, I think, your headset mic.
Okay.
If you care.
At this moment, I don't care so much, but
I just have to listen to your damn airplane fan.
yeah.
Tristan. Oh god, what did I do? I immediately regret this decision. Man, your screen is freaking out.
It's better than not doing anything.
That's true, I guess. Matt, what game were you testing with?
I wanted to be a surprise.
Okay.
Well, now it looks like shit, though.
I mean, just so you're clear, it looks like nothing to us.
Well. Oh, sorry, my man's getting killed.
What?
I gotta go save him.
This is so confusing.
Oh no. Son of a bitch. The bear killed her. Die.
What the fuck?
Die, bear. Hmm.
Yeah, it almost feels like, I guess they were afraid that without the weird parts, Wildbow, that they wouldn't have a game, so they felt the need to add the other stuff to it. I haven't played the second one at all. I'm waiting for my wife, but oops, wrong button. I'm trying to think of the perfect place to put my mic. I'm so worried about podcast recording that I want it like close, but like just hanging out. I think it can be like over here, and presumably people can still hear me fine. Can you still hear me fine, Matt?
I mean, I can tell the difference.
Like bad?
I can't really say whether it's worse, you know?
Okay. I still feel like it's... I guess I could, like, worst case, I could turn the gain up, but that's just gonna pick up all fun stuff. Hey, Matt, judging by the audio file, I think I talked too much this episode.
Well, I was glad that you talked more than me because I couldn't have handled talking the same amount.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I kind of did that consciously because I knew your voice was struggling. So I was like,
Yeah.
it's okay this time because he won't be mad at me.
No, I'm glad actually.
Hey, wait, I see something.
Well, now I'm just going back to display mode instead of game capture.
That's so weird. Let me test it. What game is this?
See, now I can't look at what it looks like, so I'm gonna have to get that.
It looks like you're playing a game.
I have to get that second monitor.
But also, yeah, I can see Skype. I can see
Oh, you know what I can do to fix that?
your entire. I mean, like you can see your entire display.
I can fix that though. I can just do this.
That is one solution.
There, I'm a hacker.
That is an interesting solution, but it is a solution. So you know.
Let me see. Oops.
I'm gonna try something here real quick. Should be editing, but now I'm playing. This is what's happening. It's your fault, Matt.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're playing Far Cry. That's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
You said you were playing that.
That's what I said.
I remember now.
And yeah, you can't hear any of this.
No, but they can now hear Life is Strange playing. no, they can't because I clicked off of it. Now my thing's not working. My game capture's not working.
I broke it for you.
I hate everything. Oh wait, yes it is. There it is. Hey! Mine's working, man. I don't know what's wrong with yours.
What did you do that was different from what I did?
I don't know. Just captures.
Uh-oh, I'm being killed by a rabid wolf animal.
Wait, did we go offline?
I don't know.
No, never mind. Sorry. Yeah, the frame rate's gonna drop every time I click off. Options. Matt.
So,
Sound of the game is drowning us out. Yeah, that's probably true. But it's just like, if I click off to go look at something, to go like post something in chat or something, it's gonna do this. Yeah, the mute license music is a very it's a very great feature that I think all games should have.
oh, that is pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, that was a good test.
There's a throw can button when I'm driving a car.
Of course there is.
Hmm.
Now I'm just editing while Matt plays Far Cry on the stream.
I mean, at least I'm here, right? Right?
Yeah. Sure.
This is a pretty good game. I always liked the Far Cry games.
Man, I got tired of them.
Just in general.
Yeah, like I'm tired of Ubisoft's model. Like, was it a Ubisoft game? It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Far Cry games are all very similar to each other, but I actually like what they're doing generally. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike them. I just got tired of buying each one. And
Yeah.
so
Well, I
stopped
skipped.
doing that.
Yeah, I skipped several. So that helped.
You're playing the newest one, right? 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game since 2.
I never
I
played
never
it.
even played the ones that were supposed to be good. I just got tired of Assassin's Creed games. Apparently, the ones that they're not releasing well, they took a break, but there was the Egypt one that was supposed to be really good, and now this Greek one is supposed to be really good. But I'm still just like, no, I don't wanna. It's only 12 a.m. We still almost went for 2 hours.
Yeah, I know.
There was one point where I thought we were like almost done, and I was like, this is gonna only be an hour and a half episode, and then that didn't happen.
Yeah, I kind of had that moment too. Where I was like, oh, my voice can handle.
Yeah, I feel like they always have really stilted dialogue scenes, don't they?
What, this game?
No, Assassin's Creed.
Oh. Yeah, I love the intro of this game because it's like you go into the compound
Hey
um,
everybody.
with like you're a sheriff's deputy or U.S. Marshal or whatever, and you go into the redneck religious cult compound, and it's all like cinematic and extremely tense because like they're you know they don't want you there, but like they haven't actually made any moves against you yet. And then you try to arrest their guy, and then as you're walking out, everything goes to shit, and it's really really cinematic and awesome.
Like, wouldn't it be? I know this is a private stream, so the only people are watching are the people that have the link. But how hilarious would this be if someone just like randomly came across it and it's just like me with Audition in the background with like a zoomed in shitty res version of the game you're playing through Skype without sound.
Brilliant. This is top-notch entertainment.
Hey everybody,
I'm
welcome to
listening
We've Got
to
Ward, a Doof
a
Media
version of
podcast
us
series
talk
where
that's
we
recorded
expertly
while I'm
dissect
editing
and
it.
discuss Ward. Wild boast about today's episode.
I feel it as well, Matt, but I'm sure if we just bull ahead thought we are 9.12 and 9.13.
These were two really fun chapters. I don't know. Great, really fun.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't in the past.
Yeah,
Up for the whole story up to this point. Character, so much has happened.
that kind
I
of
like the
thinking
open
makes
world
me realize how
thing.
I'm so exhausted by open world games. I hate them now.
I do kind of think that I broke this game though because I the first thing I did was like found an airplane and then just flew like literally across the entire map and then just started doing things where I landed, which means I'm probably doing everything out of order. But who cares?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of open world, right? That it doesn't matter.
I guess. Ideally.
I really liked...
Yeah, that's a really good point. That kind of thinking makes me realize how interesting it's going to be to reflect on Arc 9 when it's done, because
so much has happened.
Man, it's so funny to see your transition when your mic goes out. Like, it's night and day.
done because
So much has happened.
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 on Arc 9 when it's done, because
Editing out this part never happened.
So much has happened.
Arc, like,
This has been the acceleration of a lot of the character growth of Victoria, a lot of the plot movements that have been building up for the whole story up to this point have all kind of just...
Hey, man, I think your mic just switched.
Yeah.
hold on.
So much has happened.
Okay,
It's back now.
I'll just resume what I was saying, I guess.
Yeah. Go
Let me
ahead.
just check that it's actually back.
I mean, you sound great, and there's no background noise, so
Okay, alright.
it's very distinct.
Yes. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about about Arc 9 when this arc is wrapped up, because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this acceleration of both. I almost don't like remember what happened at the beginning of Arc 9, and by almost I mean I don't. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the longest one we've had so far, and it's not.
It's got a quest.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel that about games, Wildbow. Like, even if it's not choices, like games where like an RPG with recorded dialogue, but like you have to advance the dialogue window after a little bit. It's just like it comes off as so unnatural and weird.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about about Arc 9 when this arc is wrapped up, because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this.
Too. So
Sorry,
I
I
can't
was
wait
not
to get.
watching the chat, so I'm catching up now.
Yeah, you're too busy shooting Americans.
Yeah, shooting those poor rural Appalachians.
Hasn't in the past.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I play a lot of
That kind of
StarCraft
thinking makes
2,
me
which
realize how
Scott
interesting
tells
it's
me
going
is
to be
a
to reflect.
game that the kids are just all mad about these days.
What is, huh? Which game?
StarCraft 2.
Oh, the kids are mad about StarCraft 2?
Yeah.
Kids are talking about StarCraft 2?
StarCraft 2 is a video game.
Reflect on Arc 9 when it's done, because yeah, I can't wait to talk about about Arc 9 when this arc is wrapped up, because so much.
Let's see if I can take the good part of one and connect it.
Yeah,
to
I can't wait to talk
other.
about Arc 9 when this arc is wrapped up. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about Arc 9 when this arc is wrapped.
Oops.
Get out of there. Oh, that was bad.
See how this works.
When it's done, because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this.
Nope. I need to get rid of the second because. Matt, your first take on the beginning of a sentence was better than your first take on than your second take on the beginning of a sentence, so I'm splicing them together.
I was hoping you would.
It's done because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this. Because so much has happened. Because so much has happened. So much.
Video editing is so weird. Or audio editing, rather. It's just me listening to your voice for hours.
Yeah.
I'm like needlessly overcomplicating this. Like I could have just taken your take with the stumbled word in it, but why do that if I have a clean one?
Of course.
It's done because so much has happened in this arc.
No,
It's
I
just been
do the
this
same thing with you guys with Weaver
acceleration
Dice,
of-
like, constantly.
That doesn't sound good.
Done because so much has happened. Because so much has happened. Because so much has happened. Because so much has.
There's a little blip there at the end that's driving me crazy. Is it you? Is it you? I'm gonna get you.
Done because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this. Done because so much has happened in this arc. Done because so much.
Still a little. Probably overthinking this.
On Arc 9 when it's done, because so much has happened in this arc.
It's the pause. It's the pause. You don't pause normally between those words, so it sounds unnatural. I'm gonna crack this, Matt.
I can't see what's happening.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this acceleration
just
of
made it
both the plot movements and the character growth moments, and how interesting it's going to be to reflect on Arc 9 when it's done, because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this acceleration.
Kind of having to bend in some ways that she hasn't in the past.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That kind of thinking makes me realize how interesting it's going to be to reflect on Arc 9 when it's done, because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this acceleration of both the plot movements and the character growth moments, and I almost don't like remember what happened at the beginning of Arc 9, and by almost.
You know what I'm gonna call that? I'm gonna call that good enough. It's a weird nebulous thing that
Favorite words.
we don't see all of it, but we do know. And then I'm gonna be listening to it tomorrow, and I'm gonna hear it and cringe, because that's what I do. And forget that it was 12:15 at night, and I had been listening to the same 3 seconds over and over again, and I need to stop.
Sounds like me when I do Weaver Dice, except I never stop.
Yeah.
Ah! Jesus Christ!
Are you losing to a
Fucking
bear, man?
shit.
I like how you've
Hey,
removed
everybody.
the face
Welcome.
cam, and it's just now you.
Oh,
playing.
did I?
Well, it's gone. I don't know if you removed it.
Let me
So
see
we've
if
got
I can fix
a
that.
Doof Media
Seems
podcast.
super important. There we go.
Your version of OBS looks different than mine. Maybe you have the latest version?
Perhaps
What version do you have?
22.0.2.
Yeah, I have 21.1.2. Maybe I
Hmm.
should upgrade. Do you like it? Is it better? I guess you have nothing to compare it to.
I mean,
Is it good?
it seems pretty easy. The only problem I've actually ever had was that it won't play this game for me properly.
Well, now I'm afraid to do it if it's not going to work with game capture. I'm just assuming that's your fault, though.
Probably.
Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans.
Okay.
My name is Matt Freeman, and I'm feeling an empowering sense of impending bloody doom about today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Matt Freeman.
With people who got me to read Worm in the first. We're going to have a new episode of Weaver Dice one day. We were just talking about that the other day, and we need thinking of adding a new stretch.
And Doof Warrior Zachary S. at the $20 level. Thanks so much, y'all. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
You guys are awesome.
Matt, we're thinking of adding a new stretch goal. Not that yet, but I guess we're ready to preview
Yeah.
the announcement for some reason.
We're
I
announcing the possibility
decided
of
to
an
do this.
announcement. So, yeah,
So look out
Maybe.
for that. We're thinking of adding.
awesome.
We're
So,
looking to do some fun stuff. Slash Doof Media.
yeah.
Boop.
And as always, make sure you go over to Wildbow's Patreon, patreon.com/Wildbow. Donate to him as well, because
Incredibly sad comes from on.
that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
You guys are awesome. And as always, make sure you go over to Wildbow's Patreon, patreon.com/Wildbow. Donate to him as well, because this is his world. We're just playing in it.
And if you cannot afford to, why is there that much of a? Is my sync off?
Sort of being disingenuous by trying to reject it if you a healthy way, whatever that looks like, and that's gonna look different for each person, I think.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I love this.
Yeah.
Can't wait to
this
see
is-
how it pays
it's
off.
Fascinating, because I don't think much of this occurred to me
Oh, shit.
consciously while reading. But yeah, it's really cool ideas.
Yeah, I agree. This was something that did not.
I almost don't remember what happened at the beginning of Arc 9, and by almost I mean I don't. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean it. I think it's the longest one we. You know, Matt, we said this.
The nature of identity, and how identity shifts over time.
You know, Matt, we said this was an English, literature.
Upon them, like Swan people, are all sort of being explored simultaneously via other characters, and also kind of in microcosm in our protagonist.
Yeah, I think that was really great. Onto those reins.
Yeah, me too.
I like that a lot.
I mean, Ashley's character is definitely one of the ones that jumps to mind immediately when you're thinking about the whole idea of self-identity because I'm in our protagonist.
Yeah, I think that was a really great summary of that. That was really fascinating.
How interesting it's going to be to reflect on Arc 9 when it's done because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this acceleration of both the plot movements and the character growth moments. I almost don't remember what happened at the beginning of Arc 9, and by almost I mean I don't.
I think it's the longest one we've had so far, and it's not just these 2 chapters.
That's right. So announcements up front. We've got Ward Halloween costume contest. So much has happened in this. Done because so much has happened in this arc.
That seems like a good place to stop.
Acceleration of both the plot
Yeah.
movements and the character growth moments.
Who dies?
I guess that's my main problem with this game actually is
remember what happened
because
at the
it's
beginning of Arc 9.
open
By
world
almost, I
and
mean, I
completely like non-sequential. I just get into worse and worse situations on purpose until I finally find one that I can't just wade through.
I'm
almost. I mean, I don't.
so mad.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the longest one we've had so far, and it's not just length of chapters; it's number of events. You're absolutely right. We've got to get to these 2 chapters.
So announcements up front.
To these 2 chapters.
That's right. So announcements of Halloween costume contest. Got Ward Halloween costume contest. Keeps talking about.
Why are you so mad?
Yeah, I do have something because for some reason my sync between the 2 tracks is off, and I don't know where that.
My name is Matt Freeman, and I'm feeling an overpowering sense of impending bloody doom about today's episode.
I feel it as well, Matt, but I'm sure if we just bull ahead thoughtlessly, we'll be able to dodge any obstacles in our path. And
These struck me like great, really fun.
I'm gonna try a different game.
They're definitely
see if that works any
we just
better.
had this big moment, right? There's big moments she hasn't in the past.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That kind of thinking makes me realize how interesting it's going to be to reflect on Arc 9 when it's done because so.
Did that work?
Yes.
So you can see StarCraft?
Still got no sound though.
Okay, well, that's not surprising because I don't think I'm telling OBS anything about the sound. I think I'm just telling Skype to just listen to the microphone. So
Yeah.
that's a problem that's gonna have to be solved completely differently.
I wonder why it didn't work for Far Cry.
Yeah.
Because so much has happened in this arc, it's just been this
Hmm.
accelerated.
Week. So yeah, I am looking forward to that overall talk about the arc as a whole, and rereading it.
Yeah, if I had a second monitor, I wouldn't need to
I can't wait to get to that.
troubleshoot
But
this with
first,
you. I could just have it
we've
over
got to get to these 2
on the other
chapters.
monitor.
That's right. So announcements
For
up
sure.
front. We've got Ward Halloween.
Where it's very clear going into this that it comes to Sveta.
Yeah, and I also like that.
Realistic kind of earned expression of everyone's worst fear when it comes to Sveta.
Yeah, and I also like that it's not like a full relief when you find
To Sveta.
Yeah, and I also like that and still bad for Sveta as a person.
Yeah, I mean, she's gonna be feeling it wouldn't be good.
Yeah, because I mean, in her mind, I can very easily see it just being like, look, I mean, I put myself in a situation where I can.
Interestingly,
my body
Right.
was
It's
used
refusing
for
to
that,
load
so
the game for
it's
me.
my responsibility.
That's new.
And
Yep.
I think that's how she would see it.
I mean,
Oh,
if she
there it
doesn't
goes.
draw moment, right? There's big moment for Victoria. In some ways that she hasn't in the past.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That kind of thinking makes me realize how interesting it's going to be to reflect on Arc 9 when it's done, because so much has happened in this arc. It's just been this acceleration of both the plot movements and the character growth moments, I almost
That more reviews equals good. So thank you for doing that, everyone.
this is like voting in our quarter.
A new stretch goal. That's between Matt. We're thinking of adding a new stretch goal. That's between a current one. So
Yeah. And as always, make sure you go over to Wildbow's page.
stars and says incredibly satisfying way to revisit this awesome stars and says incredibly
Bidoof donor Eric P at the $5 level, and Doof Warrior Zachary S at the $20 level. Thanks so much, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
That's awesome. You guys are awesome. And as always, make sure you go over to Wildbow's Patreon. We're just playing in it.
And if you cannot afford to donate right now, that is more reviews equals good. So thank you for doing that, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. And it always makes me feel really.
Yeah, that means the world to me. That's the goal, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
It's great that we're achieving that to some people.
Yeah. All right, that's all for this week. We'll be back next week to cover more Ward. We know that there's at least one more Gleaming chapter, but will there be 2 or 3 or anyway?
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm out of the speculation game. I'm not gonna say we'll be back.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. The speculation game. I'm not gonna say we'll be back.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back. Goddess is Trump. Goddess is Trump.
Going to be for a long time, but where the story actually comes down on those
Matt,
themes
are you winning?
is still up
Are you
in
winning
the
the
air.
crafts?
We'll see.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I like about Wildbow's writing. Are you playing
is
online? That
Yeah.
he doesn't, even if he has like a central, like
People still play
conclusion
that game
behind those
online?
those
Oh yeah,
themes,
I mean
it's not simple,
it's got-
but it's
I mean,
very
I wouldn't say
gray.
it's popular,
And I
but
think-
like
I
they
think we're
still
gonna be
do
see
tournaments
some
in
similar
Korea
things
that
to the
have like
conceit
hundreds
of
of
the
thousands of
themes
dollars
in
of
this
prize money. So
Yeah, that's a great point. There's
could be worse, I guess. Yeah, let's see what we're doing here.
We had a really good day last Wednesday.
Oh yeah,
I hadn't noticed. Yeah, the episode did more on that day than the last few have. I
cool.
wonder if it's people were anxious to see our follow-up to being unfair to Tristan,
Yes,
so they tuned in that day instead of waiting. 'Cause
sounds like.
I mean, our numbers are average. It's just like what day do they listen that changes.
Sounds like humans.
Arknight Gleaming Part 6. Was it 5? I think Arc 5 we got up to 7 parts, right? That's the longest since
I
this
think
one.
so. Uh-oh. That's not good.
Matt, don't lose. Matt, don't lose.
Got a situation, Scott. Got us a situation. Yep, I should have been more aggressive with that.
Hey Matt, remember when I played Daniel and we were both really bad, and was it you and Michael that were like pretending to commentate, or was it Tim?
What game?
StarCraft 2.
I don't remember that happening.
It's probably Tim then. It was like a game of incompetence, or two people didn't know what they were doing, but it was a close game because we had equal level of incompetence.
Sounds like I would have enjoyed that. I hope you recorded it somewhere.
I mean,
Forever.
this was like 6 years ago, so they might have. I don't know if it exists anymore.
Okay, well, then maybe I was there. I didn't realize it was a long time ago.
Now you got to get that APM up.
I know. APM's been really dragging lately.
I don't actually know what you're doing, so I'm just saying words that I've heard before.
Gonna die. That's what's up.
But you're Protoss. They
Yeah,
always
the
win.
toss is strong.
Oh no, they baited your zealots.
It happens. I don't know if that went the way he wanted it to.
Oh no! Oh no! This is the most fun I've had editing a podcast in a while. Including today's and an interlude. That could be. 3 more chapters? You think that could be, Matt? Including today's?
Yeah, I think that sounds
So
possible.
one more normal chapter after today's, and then an interlude. I mean, I haven't read today's yet, so I can't say anything about it with any kind of actual knowledge. But has that stopped me before?
Kind of our whole brand, isn't it?
Kinda.
Not. I need to expand. I need to have expanded several minutes ago.
Yeah, he probably has like 12 bases by now.
I mean, he is Zerg, so yeah, he probably does.
Matt, build more pylons. Oh no, he's scouting you. He sees your expansion, Matt.
I know.
You're fucked.
I know. I am.
I'm such a great StarCraft commenter.
Apparently, I pushed a.
I don't know what any of the units' names are, but I know that's a pylon, and that's Vespene gas.
It's true. You're right about all that. I mean, you've really
I
got
know
this.
I know what a zealot is.
Let's see. He had a bunch of. Uh-oh. Go, 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 go.
Matt, he killed your expansion.
Tried to.
Don't let him bait you, Matt. He's baiting you. Oh, God. Wait, this guy is not that good either.
No,
think
he's
you're
not.
Okay. I think you're okay. Why would he send one? That was dumb.
Yeah, I mean, he's just not that good. I mean, I'm not that good either, but I know that.
You know, I like real-time strategy games in theory more than I like them in practice. I'm like,
Well, that's
it would
not
be.
good.
Matt,
Hmm.
he's adapted to your strategy.
Seems so.
Counter
just have to
Hydralisks. What
counter-
counters Hydralisks, Matt?
Probably what I'm doing right now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it appears that Matt is building the unit that counters Hydralisks, which he has stated is called "What I'm Doing Right Now."
I mean, I think zealots are pretty good. I mean, there's probably a better counter, but that's what I have on my tech tree right now. So this is not the counter for Hydralisks, but I'm building it anyway because I can harass his mineral line with it.
He's going to harass the mineral line with a thing that is not a counter to Hydralisks. What is this thing called, Matt?
Carrier.
It's a carrier. That's the thing with the little buzzy, annoying things.
Yep.
I hated those things. They suck.
Yep. Sure do. Pain in the ass for everyone.
Do you have an army? I don't
Kind of.
understand why he didn't attack you.
He's not very good. I mean, either
He
again,
destroyed your entire army. and
again,
then he
neither,
just-
yeah, neither of us is good. He should have won already.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's not good.
Matt, where'd all your stuff go?
See, now if he doesn't win, he's just shameful.
Yeah, he should definitely win right now.
Yeah.
It appears like your zealot counter didn't really work.
No, didn't. That worked though. Oh.
Oh yeah, those will do really good against Hydralisks. You should build more of those.
Perhaps. We'll see.
Only the best StarCraft channel. We're going full StarCraft.
Yeah,
No more podcasts.
that's what I'm thinking. Well, that sucked.
Hey Matt, I think you lose.
I think so. And it's bedtime. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Matt. That was fun.
I think the NyQuil kicked in.
That's good. I hope you feel better, man.
Thanks.
What if chess was a real-time strategy game? That's great.
Kind of is. All right, later.
It's literally a turn-based strategy. Like, by definition, there are turns.
How do I stop this? How do I stop it?
You
Okay.
hang up Skype.
All right, good
Bye.
night. Good
Later,
night.
man.
Later.
I closed the window. Why didn't that go away? Hey, Skype. Yeah, we were definitely joking. There will always be podcasts. Always. Why is it taking so long? Ta-da! There's my file. Now let's clean it up.
Suspect of having been given the drugs to make them immune to her. She topples one of their buildings and then orders Seer to go deal with them.
Okay. This is about done. It's taking forever, but I think I'm just gonna shut her down and then go to bed. Thanks for hanging out, guys. It was fun. We got to test out some game streaming unexpectedly for some reason. We will be back next week. I think next week, we haven't announced it yet, but I think it's going to be our QA. So we'll probably end up recording on Tuesday because I think we're generally sketching our QAs on Monday, just in case. But we'll be back either way next week to do, hopefully, maybe the rest of these chapters. I don't know. But we'll see y'all around.